All right, good morning, everybody. Myself and my colleagues would like to welcome you all to what I believe is the first Saturday morning meeting of our council, probably in the history of it, to discuss the budget. So thank you all. I'm glad to see that we have many citizens interested in their government and what we do. I would ask everybody to please rise for a salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hanlon, if you would please conduct a roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
Thank you. All right, we'll begin with Bill 96 on solid waste.
Good morning, everyone. So our first item of concern is the trash fee. And at this time, I make a motion to amend the solid waste fund to change the fee increase, which was initially published as $120 to $40 to cover the cost of the anticipated 2024 deficit. Residents, we believe, should not pay more than what services cost in anticipation of an increase.
And I would like to second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Zukel, seconded by Ms. Moto.
If you could just restate what the amount was, the amount of the reduction, just so it's clear.
Oh, I'm sorry. So obviously, the difference in the anticipated cost would have been $80. And this is kind of really, if you think about it, like a savings account for us for the future.
But as I understand it, it would be to change the fee increase from 120 to 40, is that
That
a
is
fair
correct, sir.
statement?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, motion is made. All those in favor, please indicate by stating aye. Aye.
Discussion.
Discussion. All right, any comments from my colleagues? Any comments from the public?
I could, from the administration,
Yes.
the administration appreciates council working with us to come up with a number that makes sense. We had initially proposed a $120 increase to prepare ourselves for what was certain will be an increase in the trash collection fee in 2025. But we understand council, and we're glad to work with you and come up with this number that will keep the recycling and solid waste fund solvent through 2024. We hope at least that it'll keep it solvent through 2024 and will minimize the impact on our residents. So appreciation to council, and the administration is fully in support of this proposal.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hunsaker?
Good morning, Glenn Hunsaker, Mr. Mayor and Council. Getting a little emotional. You know, 7 years ago, the city borrowed $4 million over King's City. It's, anyway. This kind of a advertisement of raising it $120, it's ridiculous. Nobody does that. I have to respect the mayor, but who are the people that do this? Come out without doing their numbers and just say, I'm gonna raise this kind of thing. It's ridiculous. The budget group, can we blame it on them? Where are these numbers coming from? Let the solid waste people come up and do a dog and pony show, just them. Tell me, if they need the money, that's a different really story. I mean, let them prove that they really need it. I don't want a wish list. That's what we're getting. Ridiculous. Yard Waste Center, we have a tower out there. Is it Verizon on the yard waste? Is that a positive or negative? There's so many little things that you look in the budget. Is that income coming in or outgoing? And I look at the 13 million for the waste management contract. It's down from last year, it's maybe 700,000. That doesn't, this 120 would give 1.2 million. Go out for an RFP, you have one more year. I don't know what the increase would be on a contractual basis from year to year, because they do have that written in. So, I'm sorry, this gets me. I'll talk to you about it. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is there anybody else that wishes to comment? Seeing none. Mr. Hamlin, please conduct the vote.
Okay, on the motion to reduce the $120 increase in solid waste to $40, Ms. Zappa?
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Napoli?
Yes.
Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. President? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Hamlin. Moving on to bill number 96.
I believe there are gonna be some motions made, and then if at the end of the meeting, no.
Okay, do I have a motion to amend the rules?
Not the rules.
No, no.
Maybe Mr. Smith can explain.
Okay, so the only, we handled, Bill 96, correct, Mr. Hanlon?
You have, I mean.
Mr. Hunter, can you use your microphone, please?
Okay, so you
Thank you.
amended Bill 96.
You've
okay?
amended Bill 96, okay, fair enough.
So you have a few other motions that you're going to consider to amend various budget bills. And then if you do all that stuff, then I'm assuming you would need to suspend the rules, and then you would go
Prior to
and talk
adoption.
the budgets at the
Right.
end of the meeting.
Okay. So then as I understand it, is that there was going to be a motion to adjust the budget concerning certain personnel positions, correct?
That is correct. So, Mr. President, if you would appreciate it, would make the motion then?
Yes, you made a motion, made, seconded.
Well, I gotta
We
wait.
have to state
Go
it.
ahead.
Okay, I make a motion to adjust the budget in the following manner, that there will be no upgrades, added positions, changed titles pursuant to memo 1, which was presented to us by the mayor, in all funds except for the following. Inspectors Certification Program, 1 new telecom technician position in the police department, 12 firefighters, financial analyst, sweep officer in solid waste, and the MW to a step 11M, and neutral fiscal changes such as arborists are authorized. Other changes, moving the front desk receptionist with a 3% salary increase to the 2023 position, and equity and inclusion coordinator, 3% increase in the 2023 positions, from the mayor's office to the Department of Human Resources. Transfer $130,000 budgeted for human resources consultant into the 02 account for the HR director. In the mayor's office, continue the 2023 positions into the 2024 budgeted with an appropriate 3% increase. Communications managers, special assistant to the mayor, executive assistant to the mayor will remain with no neutral changes. Funding the manager director position at the request of the mayor to $1. A 10% decrease in all overtime budgets in the general fund, resulting in a $655,000 savings. Also, a 5% decrease in accounts 20 through 68 in the general fund, with a savings of $130,402, adding up to a savings of, with a net profit of over $400,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none.
I had a comment, I'm not gonna, it's just a question.
Good.
Are any of the people out there able to, like the directors or anything, able to speak here? Like the chief of police or Ricky or anyone be able to speak on this?
Yes.
We have a counter proposal that we'd like to talk through after, when the time is appropriate, and then the time for our,
Okay.
folks
So
to speak
that
up.
would be after us, we get the public, that doesn't include them to speak.
To be clear, this amendment would bring the tax increase to what?
Zero.
Zero, okay, to be clear.
Zero. I apologize, yes, that would result in a zero increase.
So let me say this, the controlling degree here, if it passes, we think it'd be 400,000 good. Oh, sorry about that, so the controller can weigh in here, we think if it passes, you'll be 400,000 to the good, will not be a tax increase.
Has the math, has city council done the math? We saw the one aside, 5% decrease shows a $1.1 million price tag, but I haven't seen line of the impact from any of the other lines that you're recommending.
Okay, the controller has verified those numbers. If you would, sir.
If I may, I did a quick and dirty yesterday, I discussed it with Mr. Hanlon. I made some assumptions, and, you know, I totaled up the personnel changes, and I'm pretty accurate there, though I might be off a little bit in terms of how the $190,000, or the $130 for the human resource director fits in there. Personnel, for overtime, my understanding is that fire made a specific offer, and I took that into account, and then the requested 10% deduction was on overtime without the fire department. And you come roughly $350,000, somewhere in there. I'm gonna make a suggestion. If you get to this point, these are some very targeted reductions. If these should pass, it would make things very challenging for the departments and the administration going forward. And my advice would be that you essentially need a reduction in expenses of about $2.9 million. Would be to say, we want the administration to reduce expenses by $2.9 million, so our expenses essentially equal revenues without a tax increase, and let them figure out how to put the pieces together, because that's what they do, as opposed to micromanaging it up here and maybe finding out some of the pieces really aren't gonna fit very well. So as you go down this path, please consider that, and of course also consider the administration's counter proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blaker. Any comments from the public?
Would it be appropriate for us now to propose?
One lady right there that has her hand up.
Mr. Mayor, I'll let you go after she speaks.
Sure.
Good morning.
All right, good morning, folks. So my name is Maria O'Connor. I'm the chairperson of the Allentown EAC. And I'm here today, and again, these comments, just for your reference, were submitted prior to this meeting. I'm here today to talk about the sustainability coordinator position, something that was not mentioned in what you're saving. And the reason I'm doing so is because the sustainability coordinator will help the city to lower its costs through implementing more sustainable practices and by bringing more money to the city in federal, state, and county grants, as well as philanthropic resources. If you, again, these comments were submitted prior, so you can certainly take a gander at the example that was provided to you. But just a quick recap here, that in May 2020, again, this example was provided, the Western Pennsylvania Energy Consortium, led by the city of Pittsburgh, signed a new contract with the Direct Energy to provide 100% renewable energy through 2021. And that saved the city and the WPEC members about $700,000. And why I think we need that here and what that can do for us. Well, folks, there are literally millions of dollars currently available that the city does not have the capacity to apply for. We have, as Allentown EAC members, made several recommendations, and unfortunately, there's very little progress that was made because we do not have the capacity to do so. In addition to reducing costs for the city, the sustainability coordinator will drive progress in multiple environmental justice fronts, which, as we are in the inner city, we are an environmental justice area. And this would include things like tree equity, energy equity, water equity, and food justice, air quality, etc. Which again, if you are in the inner city, you know that we're disproportionately impacted by poor air quality. You know we tend to be on a heat island as opposed to our suburban counterparts, and we need natural methods to cool it down. So folks, I am largely imploring you to please keep this in the budget. It will, again, save us in the future, and it's something that is worth our while and will pay for itself. Also, it gives us the opportunity to further our partnerships and strengthen our community through working with nonprofits like Community Bike Works, Promise Neighborhood, Community Action, LV, Monoxy Park, and so on. And folks, again, please do take a gander at the comments that were submitted prior to this meeting. And that's what I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Councilor Hendricks, our IT team is gonna make a slight adjustment to the podium to
Okay.
reduce that. I think there's an echo picking up. So just a minor interruption. I think she's done. So, Council, would now be an appropriate time to detail some proposed.
One comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Hunter.
Okay, let me cover it here. The controller, do you have those numbers that he's calculating on? I think it'd be advantageous for the controller to submit his calculations to the full council and to the public. I'd like to see how he calculated this. I mean, I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just thinking it should be more transparency, okay?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I read the proposal from council when it was released a couple days ago. And through our ongoing discussions over the past few weeks and months, I appreciate where council's coming from and a desire to reduce the financial burden on our residents. So that's why we're wholly in agreement with reducing the increase to the trash fee from $120 to $40. And it's what led me and my team to put our heads together and sharpen our pencils to come up with something that would reduce a potential tax increase. So our initial budget of, and I'm gonna use a slightly round number, of $147 million to the general fund was built on a 6.9% tax increase. That would have been about an average, I think I mentioned to you, about $53 per household across the city of Allentown, and would have been more significant in some neighborhoods than in others, but on a whole, about $53 per residential household. We took it back. We looked for where we could make some adjustments consistent with what council was recommending, but that preserved the fundamental integrity of the budget, which was a budget that was designed to improve public safety in the city of Allentown, improve the quality of public works and the cleanliness of our city, and lead to healthy outcomes for all of our residents. A budget that was designed to ensure that there's equal access and equitable access to city services. So if it's okay, I would like to just read through some of the proposed changes that we're making, so it's not it's not a reaction to what Councilman Zugal just detailed. It's based off of the initial budget. I'll read that through, and if it's okay, I would like to read through that, and then I would ask Chief Charles Roca to come up and speak briefly, Vicki Kistler from CED to speak briefly, and then Lucinda Wright, our Equity and Inclusion Coordinator, to speak briefly. And I don't think it'll take very long, and I think it'd be a helpful, it'd be helpful for council to hear what we're proposing as a response to council's desire to.
We'll have to limit those to the time limits that we had set there.
We'll move with speed.
They have a copy in front of them.
You do have a, so I'll read through briefly for the benefit of the people in the room. So the initial recommended cuts to what it was proposed to council and what was delivered and printed to council is first the elimination, and this is first to the mayor's office. So these cuts would result in a savings of $76,105. Eliminating the new position of Arts and Culture Coordinator, eliminating the reclassification of Communications Manager to Communications Director. Secondly, savings of $115,846 to Public Works by eliminating one new position, the MW1 custodian, eliminating the purchase of a vehicle, and eliminating the installation of a traffic control signal at Glenwood and Lehigh. In Parks, we can save $105,846 by eliminating one new position from the middle shift, the recommended middle shift, an MW1, and then various reduction of lighting upgrades in our parks, drinking fountains in our parks, office equipment for the parks administration, and self-watering planters. Community and Economic Development can save $17,900 by correcting a previously erroneously budgeted electrical expense and by delaying the improvements made to a bathroom in Alliance Hall. Police have suggested savings of $49,296 by eliminating one of the recommended telecom technician positions. Fire is proposing to reduce its overtime budget by $250,000. IT can shift a payment of the Munis software upgrade to 2025 and save $55,980. Finance found a correction to the Trexler Trust budget transfer fee of $12,000. Law has offered to reduce its expenditures on training and professional development by $9,185. And finally, we would shift the purchase of 2 vehicles from the equipment fund to the rental fund. The total impact of those cuts would be $752,158, which would allow us to drop that budget increase to 0.33 mils, which represents approximately a 4.57% increase. It's a substantial reduction from what we had initially proposed, and if it's okay, I'd like to ask Chief Roca to speak briefly on the consequences of either cut on public safety.
Could I just get clarification? Is it 4.57% or on our paper it's 4.35?
I made an adjustment. It's the 4.57%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, Council. This Saturday, Chief Charles Roca of the Allentown Police Department. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with Council and members of the public. Policing is very near and dear to my heart, and one of the things that I wanted to do when I became chief was to bring our level of professionalism, service, and equity throughout the entire city. not just for benefits and things like that, but for our most vulnerable. This current budget, unfortunately, in my mind, aligns itself with defunding the police. You look at how it impacts us. It impacts us by taking away valuable overtime dollars, which we have to respond to incidents. I can't sit here before you and tell you an incident of a catastrophic nature is not going to occur. We've experienced this in the past multiple times. And with me to manage is my team, my captain, my administration. Without them, it creates a void of leadership, and it also degrades from individuals in the current collective bargaining unit from becoming captains. We gotta think about succession planning. One of the things I heard very strongly throughout the year is the loss of upper management within the city. We can think of individuals, directors, others that have left the city and went to other townships, boroughs, cities, locations throughout out of state. And you have to ask yourself why. And one of the things is that the upper management has to feel appreciated, as does our workers. Through the collective bargaining agreement, as I mentioned in my budget, they had the increases that are mandated by the collective bargaining agreement. That's great. But what about our managers? What about our people that work day in and day out to make sure that the oversight, command oversight, is there for our community? We talk about how that impacts us. And let me read you some stats. Councilman Zuckel asked the other day what our crime rate drop was, and I had some clarity on that. For violent crime, homicide, rape, robbery, ag assault, we are down 4% from 2022. For Part 1 crime overall, we are down 18.8% from 2022. Compared to the 3-year average for violent crime, we are down 5.8%. And for the total Part 1 crime, compared to the 3-year average, we are down 6.3%. That takes boots on the ground policing. That takes command oversight. That takes of what we are trying to achieve in the City of Allentown Police Department, is which to empower our commanders. I am not a micromanager, but I have oversight of our department and the impact that we have so that we can police our growing city. And our city is not without its challenges, but we have a very resilient city. And for us to be able to move forward, it's important that we do that. Our tech teams, our department has the ability to work with our fine staff there, and they have a very definite high demand on their time. Patrol vehicle install, fire department vehicle install, EMS, the loading of radio equipment. These are all items that are important that they have to need to hear. Now what you're essentially doing is saying, you know what, to the captains, you don't value as much. And for me as a chief of police, let's show them that we value and respect their efforts, just as we do our everyday police officers. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Can I ask Vicki Kissler to speak?
Sir.
I think we can all agree that this has been a challenging year. And it's been a year of divide. And unfortunately, I think that some of that comes from the fact that we all don't come together for common solutions. But I have to tell you that this team in the front row, I know we call it the mayor's budget, but it's really our budget. We're not looking at the fact that many of the departments are coming to you this year under budget. We hear you. We know that we are the stewards of tax money and that you are the stewards of tax money, and we're not on different teams. Many of us have come to you with a budget savings that's gonna carry into the next year. We've worked diligently to fill vacancies to provide service. Week after week, we have people standing at the podium telling us, telling you what they didn't get. We're trying to address that. We're trying to address the phone calls that you get that you pass on to us about service that is missing. And we're trying to do that by keeping the people we have. We're a business in this community, and every business needs people right now. And we're trying to retain the really good ones we have while staying under budget, while delivering the services that make our constituents happy. We have a lack of communication, and we have a lack of partnership that's been rampant. And some of that comes from the fact that key positions in this city have not been stable or filled. And we're working diligently to do that. I'm getting closer in DCED than I've ever been before to full staffing, but it costs money. And when it costs that money to do the things that we want to do, after hours, addressing issues in the middle of the night at the nuisance properties, going to places where we don't just provide our service and leave, but we try to provide that quality of service to stay and follow up and make sure a person has a place to go after a fire, and to provide what you're telling us you want. We are working very hard, and when we saw the divide, we came back with this plan of cuts. And we get that there's a tax increase into this. And we're hoping that we can move more and raise more and do more so that we don't have to continue to do that, but we have to come to the table together to resolve the issues. And I don't know that we can give any more than what we've just put before you and still meet the needs of the people at the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kistner.
If it's okay, I'd like to ask Lucinda Wright, who is our Equity and Inclusion Coordinator, to talk a little bit. To talk a little bit about the importance of the autonomy of the Office of Equity and Inclusion.
Good morning, City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. Lucinda Wright, Equity and Inclusion Coordinator. Also born and raised in the city of Allentown, so I understand the importance at a higher level. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a crucial aspect of modern organizational culture and a society at large. While HR departments traditionally handle certain aspects of DEI initiatives, solely regulating these responsibilities to HR can have limitations, and here's why. Broader organizational impact. DEI initiatives should not be seen as a mere compliance issue. They are about fostering an inclusive culture which needs to be integrated across all levels and all departments of an organization. Placing this responsibility solely in HR may limit the extent and influence, as well as the collaboration needed to embed these values throughout the entire organization. Strategic integration is an important part of DEI, and it is more than just HR policies and compliance training. It requires strategic integration into the organization's core values and all operations. To be effective, DEI needs to influence hiring practices, training, leadership development, and the overall company culture. While HR does play a significant role, the scope extends beyond HR. Community and stakeholder engagement is a vital piece to this work. DEI efforts often extend beyond the internal workings of an organization, and our community engagement and partnerships and public perception matter in this work. These involve collaborations and outreach efforts that will extend beyond the traditional scope of HR functions. You hear a lot about tree equity, food insecurity. HR functions are an internal specific function. So with that, ultimately, while HR departments do play a critical role in implementing and supporting DEI initiatives, true success in this work and in achieving diversity, equity, and inclusion requires a comprehensive organization-wide approach that involves leadership, various departments, and a cultural shift that goes beyond HR. Diversity in the city of Allentown did not begin when we developed the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, City Council President. It's up to council, but I think it was valuable to hear from the controller on the proposed amendments by Councilperson Zuckel. I don't know if Mr. Glazer has thoughts about what he just heard from the mayor's office.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, President Hendricks. I'm not going to weigh in on the merits of either proposal. What I'm going to ask you really about your values. If you think that the city is here, and the employees are here, and you're here, and I'm here, and the mayor's here, to provide services to the citizens and quality services, I mean, we spend here at council some time hearing from the public when we fall short. Some people are shy about telling us that, other people are definitely not shy about telling us when we don't measure up. If you want to be able to provide those services, the fire hasn't been an issue, but clearly we're making a major commitment down the road to better staffing our fire departments. That doesn't seem to be an issue. But if we want things like cleaner parks, if we want our IT system to function properly, we're going into a major ERP transition. Very technical, needs to be done right, because if it doesn't, everybody here, everybody there, my office and the public are all impacted if we can't get this right. You've got to weigh what's it worth to provide these services at the level to which we expect, and how much am I willing to pay for it. Many years in Chicago, there was a one-term mayor, Jane Byrne. Jane couldn't get the streets plowed of snow. She was a one-term mayor. And what that shows is how important basic city services are to what people feel about their government. You know, I think we do a good job. I think that no matter what happens with whether you take the amendments that Councilman Zuckel's proposed or the mayor's counter proposal, we'll always do the best job possible. But I know that with a little more staff that's competitively compensated, given the very, very challenging markets that are out there, that the employees of the city of Allentown will do an even better job and make us all proud. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Glazer. Is there anybody from the public that did not have an opportunity to speak? I will go around here and get the rest of the public. Please step up.
Good morning. My name is Tinku Walker. I am a resident in the city of Allentown, past chair of the Allentown EAC, but today I'm here to speak as a resident of the city of Allentown. And I have to, first of all, really support the suggestion that's been made by our controller that we let the city administration figure out how to achieve the goal without giving them the very specific positions that need to be cut, etc. Let them figure it out. Because one of the positions that I believe would be cut under the current proposal from City Council is the sustainability coordinator position. That is a position that the city cannot afford to do without. It is a position that pays for itself over and over again. As the chair of the Allentown EAC mentioned, there's billions of federal dollars out there, some of which we have been able to access, but a lot of which is still out there, and we don't have the resources to go out and get that money for ourselves. We have community organizations that we could be working with to improve the lives of the city residents and businesses, which we don't have the resources to do, but a sustainability coordinator would be able to pull together programs with outside grant money and leverage the existing wonderful community-based organizations that we have here in the city and really do some good work for the city. It is a position that pays for itself. So based on my own knowledge and experience, and the experience of my other fellow members on the EAC, I can assure you that this position will pay for itself. So let's be smart about what positions we end up eliminating and what positions we end up keeping in. It would not be smart to eliminate this position. Every single person that I have spoken to, and I've spoken to about 30 different people, has wholeheartedly supported keeping this position in. And this includes leaders of community-based organizations and residents from all around the city. And I can provide you contact information of sustainability coordinators and managers in cities that are smaller than ours that have this position and are very glad they do. You know, people like Joel Hicks, who's the councilman at Carlisle Borough, he says one of the most important things that Carlisle Borough did was to appoint a director of sustainable community and economic development for their borough. Because he's bringing in so much grant money and tracking progress on goals and making the connections to the community that the borough needs to have happening. And to a large extent, so do we. We need to have that happening too, and we need this position. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to comment. And once again, I really support what our controller has said. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning, members of City Council, the public, City of Allentown administration. My name is Christopher Deal, and I'm a police officer with the City of Allentown for the last 20 years. I'm in my 21st year. Currently, I'm a police captain. Wednesday evening, I sat here, and I apologize for how I'm dressed. I dropped my daughter off at a softball tournament this morning. I had no intention of speaking. I wanted to listen to my chief of police, Charles Roker, speak to see what all was gotten across, and I think there's something that needs to be said here. Wednesday, I sat here in full uniform and listened to everything, and I knew what the proposed budget was, and in that proposed budget, there was an increase of salary, an adjustment from captains from where we are currently, an 18N to a 20N. And the reason is because we are redlined. We are not eligible for any type of raise. And I think you guys need, I want to bring it to your attention that last year, City Council voted for us not to be redlined any further, okay? On December 7th of 2022, at approximately 17:30 hours at a special session, Amendment 15-5519, there was a proposal of budget amendments. And then, in fact, Mr. Hanlon read over everything where it said redline employees would get adjusted, and that was specifically captains. It is right here, I have the document. I waited anxiously, as well as the other 4 captains for the City of Allentown Police Department this past year. We discussed it in many meetings. We said that we would get the job done. I know the mayor is aware of this as well, which is why he supported moving us from an 18N to a 20N position so that we were no longer redlined. Redlining is simple. We get no increase unless there is an increase across the board for managerial positions. Collective bargaining will get a contractual raise. The assistant chiefs have a step increase because they are not redlined. We have been redlined for the last 3 years now. We've gotten zeros, okay? I don't think I need to go into what the economy looks like at this point, right? It's tough for everyone, all right? I'm only asking for what you guys voted on, by the way, of a vote of 6-0 in that amendment last year. That's what I'm looking for myself and the 4 other captains to move forward and to continue to allow us to bump us to that 20N position for on the pay scale. That's all I have. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good morning.
My name's Jose. I'm here to speak about the DEI position, and my basic knowledge of it is for a company or an organization to reach its full potential, DEI has to be free flowing. When you hear the letters HR, as a community member, we hear culture keepers. They don't mix. When you hear HR, it's this is what it is what it's always going to be. We are the keeper of secrets. This is where the most trauma and harm happens because they have to hold it all. When you hear DEI, it gotta be free flowing, you gotta be able to interact. No one should be scared of the person who's doing the DEI work. And if you look at the person who's doing the DEI work right now in our city, change is coming. Please don't interrupt the change before it happens. Do not be scared of the change. It's gonna happen one way or another, and putting this under HR is gonna be harmful. Like, if we're gonna be leaders in our community and the city's gonna lead this, do the right thing. Stop limiting the change.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Pat Simpson. First, I want to thank Councilman Zuko for being bold and asking for
no kind of tax increase, but I do also support the controller in asking that it be something that the administration looks over. We can't afford a tax increase as a city. As citizens, we can't afford a tax increase. Many of us many of these, I seen this man right here cry at your podium because a tax increase, we're not getting any kind of revenue increase. So as a city, your leadership should start with being more creative than taking more from the people, right? Every time we have a tax increase, we also increase the number of people that can become homeless. We increase the number of people that are gonna be victims of violence, right? Because poverty is violence. So your tax increase also increases the violence that's being committed on our people. So when you think about it, there are things that you can do together creatively. There are other ways to get grants of your business. Some of you own businesses. We know businesses have to bring in revenue, but the only revenue that you have is increasing the taxpayers' burden. Cannot be. It cannot be. But the reason it cannot be is because as you see the amount of money leaving, you're also gonna see the amount of violence increasing. And I don't care how many police you put on the street. It's not going to stop the violence, because if I'm hungry, I'm gonna rob you. That's how we think. If I gotta feed my babies versus doing anything else, and I know, because before I had the actual wherewithal of knowing how to make more money, I would have robbed any one of you in front of the chief, because my babies had to eat. Don't put anyone in that desperate situation because we haven't taken the time to be more creative and think about how it impacts each and every individual. And then, again, we can't move the senator to HR. HR limits how she would be able to move, think, and grow, and we already have an investigation going on about our current racial discrimination. We can't afford that either. So let's make wise decisions and think about who really affects the little people. Thank you.
Thank you. No applause, please. Good morning.
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 We're here to talk about the morning station. Is this the right time or?
No,
No.
it is not. That's not
Okay.
subject on the thing. That will come up later. Thank you.
They do have a line item in the budget, the warming station. They're not being affected by this, but are you saying because it would be ARPA?
Yeah.
Okay.
At that point.
Okay.
We'll let them speak.
All right,
Good morning.
hi everybody, my name's Kyle, 528 North Burke Street. I'm here to speak in support of making sure we include the sustainability manager position in the budget. I know we've heard a lot about it already today, but just overly emphasizing the cost effectiveness to this is through the roof. I mean, the money that we can bring in is unbelievable. We just don't have a vehicle to facilitate that right now. Sustainability is all about meeting the needs of the current generation while preserving the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. We have a looming storm cloud of impacts caused by the climate crisis that are coming. And it's not just physical impacts that we're gonna have to pay for, like more expensive energy and all that. It's also crushing state and federal regulations that are coming. They're coming. They're gonna come down. It may not be in 5 years or 10 years, but they are coming. And it's important that we get the ball rolling in setting up projects that are generally tied to the long term so that we have cost savings coming in the long term. The future Allentonians will have to foot the bill of this. So if you're sacrificing the short-term gain now, like I understand there's a lot of things going on, but in the long term, it will hurt the city to not start this process now, or at least start some of the long-term projects. Because you gotta take away out of it to sort of get things done. Little things like LEDs, it matters, but right now we don't have anybody to do that. So just throwing support again and make sure it's included. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. I wasn't going to speak, but I wanted to tag on my colleague, citizen on the environmental director. My name is Dieter Kretschy. I live in Allentown. I've been here about 4 years. And I have a company called Solid Waste Solutions, and that has taken about 15 years of effort of working on college campuses to work on solid waste sustainability issues. And one of the problems that evolved out of all of that was my observation in the schools that departments don't talk to each other. And I have a sneaking suspicion that isn't just on college campuses, that's also in cities. When I wrote Solid Waste Solutions master plans for the schools, I used to have to go to all the various departments to find out what they were doing, how they were handling things, how they were washing dishes, how they were serving food, etc. And when I went in and I wanted to talk to various departments, the directorships of the universities, the facility managers. So we don't talk to those people, we only talk to these people. So why don't you talk to those guys? Well, we have nothing to do and they don't want us there. And I have a sneaking suspicion that's true in cities as well. That Department A doesn't talk to Department B. A director, a sustainability director, would then be the person that talks to all those departments. What I found also on college campuses is these people are helping to save their jobs, not get creative with ideas, because God forbid somebody's gotta get moved or will lose their job. I've been in plenty of presentations where later the vice presidents or the chancellors called me and said, you know why you didn't get that pitch done through? Because the two guys that were sitting at the table would have had to change the way they do business. They didn't want to do that. They had a vote. And so the same thing I think holds true in cities. I've written probably 30 master plans. I've been on 50 college campuses, everywhere from MIT to Hawaii to UCF. UCF is the largest college campus in the United States. They have 80,000 students. What's the population of Allentown? 120 plus thousand. So it was pretty close. Departments didn't talk to each other. We found millions of dollars in savings, but unless everybody voted, it didn't get done. So I think what's important for the city of Allentown and for all of you looking at the budget is if you need to raise the taxes, you raise the taxes. Nothing we can do about that here. However, these positions of sustainability directors pay for themselves, not only in the grants that they get, but in the consolidation of the departments that they work with, so that everybody's on the same plane. And the director does that. The vice chancellors don't, the presidents don't. A position that's put in there that allows all the departments to talk to each other. That's what makes it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from my colleagues?
Yeah.
Mr. Sen.
Thank you. This is my first budget process, and it has been, as advertised, very difficult, weighing the needs of everyone, mainly the residents. That's who we focus on. But I come from the retail world, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a retailer my whole life, and in our world there's a term called shrinkflation. Okay? And for those of you who don't know, shrinkflation is companies who don't want to raise prices, so they give you less diapers in the box, less razors in the box, less chips in the bag, but they don't raise prices. That's how they can make it work. Some companies do that. Some companies go the other direction. They raise the price of the diapers. There's no way. There's no one out there that has figured out how to do neither. It's either give less or charge a little more, and that's really where we're at here with this conversation. And it's a really difficult conversation. I get where residents are coming from, but you know, I manage employees, and I just can't get over the fact that I set up employees for success every chance I get to make them achieve their goals, to make them feel good about what they're doing, why they come to work every day. And I get why we're talking about a 0% tax increase. I would love to do that and go back to what I would normally do on a Saturday. But it's not fair to our employees, because we're essentially hamstringing them. We're putting them in a position where they may be set up for failure. And we are looking at a situation that happens in the real world outside of municipal government, where folks just say, enough is enough, I'll go somewhere else. And at that point, what are we really doing here? I mean, are we really putting ourselves in that position that's gonna hurt residents more down the road? So I just, going back and forth, I get I get where, you know, I've spoken to a ton of residents, you know, fixed incomes, older folks, I get it, I really do. But when you do the numbers, and Mr. Glazier was kind enough to share a document with us, and I'll share it with some folks here. Just to throw out some quick numbers, if someone owns a home that's valued at $84,000 in the city of Allentown, he put it at 4.1%. So in fairness, Mr. Glazier did 4.1%. The taxes on that home for next year would be an extra $26 a year for the year. So we're looking at about $2.25 a month for those taxes. If we add in the trash, we have to be fair. The trash is $3 a month, so that's going to be an extra $5 a month. If you own a property at $83,500, let's jump up to $115. $115, the taxes would be an extra $3 a month, plus $3 of trash, we're at $6 a month. If you want to jump up to $195, you're basically at $8 a month for 2024. That's a 4.1% increase. I get it. It's more than we all don't want to pay more. I totally get it. But to get the services of what we expect, there has to be something. Either we shrink our services or we pay a couple bucks more. But I think the narrative has been difficult because everyone just hears tax increase 6.9. But those are the numbers that Mr. Glazier gave that really put it in perspective for me. And I also spoke with some of our legislators, our state reps. Harrisburg is increasing the property tax abatements. So folks on fixed incomes will be more eligible for property tax refunds. And I believe, if someone can answer this for me, for trash as well. So the folks who are on lower incomes, those thresholds are going up. And that will enable more of our residents to actually get those rebates to capture some of that back. So those programs are out there. We need to speak with our legislators, whether it's Representative Josh Siegel, Representative Peter Schweier, all those folks that can help our residents get some of this back. But I just wanted to put that in perspective. Again, it goes back to we need to set our employees up for success. If we don't, and things change and they leave, we can't blame the administration for that happening if we don't take care of things here. So that's just my thought process on that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Napoli. Ms. Gerlach.
Yes, I agree that we do need to look at realities. And the reality is that there are folks in Allentown who are literally surviving on 50 cents to their name for a month.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to do that. I think it was either like 2018, I was living at 956 West Walnut, that's all I remember. Had 50 cents to my name on a gift card for Walmart, had to walk up to Walmart to get a pack of ramen noodles and then walk back home because I couldn't afford the bus. There are people who are in worse situations than that. And for them, $2 is something. And I'll tell you what $2 is. So 2 cans of cat food at Walmart, the cheap brand cat food, $1.56. If you are someone that lives in the first ward, even with the lower tax increase of 4.57%, even with that tax increase, and you need to get your dog or your cat their annual rabies vaccine, which is $27 at the Lehigh County Humane Society, you won't be able to afford that on an annual basis. Your taxes have went up beyond that. If you're someone who lives in Midway Manor and you need a new tire, sometime in the year you might need a new tire, and you get the cheapest tire that exists at Walmart, which is $59, your tax increase would exceed that tire. If you're someone who lives in the Deep West End, on the spreadsheet it says Deep West End. So if you're someone out there and your car is due for inspection, that's $65 at a minimum to get your car inspected. That exceeds the amount of, your tax increase exceeds that amount. These are realities that people in Allentown are facing on a day-to-day basis. We are choosing between tuna fish, gas, and formula for kids. It is literally the difference between someone being able to buy a monthly bus pass, which by the way, during COVID, they were $5. Now they're, as of October 1st, they're back up to $30. On January 1st, they're back up to $60 to get a monthly bus pass to get to work. It's the difference between someone being able to buy that bus pass and get to work and not. I also think that to say that this won't affect people is factually incorrect and out of touch. It's presumptuous and classist to assume that people who on the surface level have a nice house, you think they're doing all right. They're not. I have met numerous people who live deep out in the West End, and you look and you think everything's okay, but it is not okay. That $65 extra expense, that $100 extra expense is the difference between them being able to provide or not provide. I have worked with people who literally all they need to do, we hear $18 and we think, $18. That $18 is the cost to get a cheap pair of steel-toed boots at Walmart so that you can go work in a warehouse. There are people who cannot do that. They do not get the job because they cannot get the boots. So for us talking about $1.20 here, $5 here, $50 here, it sounds like nothing. But for the residents, it is. So I will not support any tax increase. I will only vote for a 0% tax increase because literally this will affect people's day-to-day lives. So I would encourage the rest of my colleagues, if you're weighing the options, to think about maybe where you started before you got to where you're at financially. Think where you started when you too were struggling, and think about the majority of residents in Allentown who are where you used to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gerlach. Ms. Atha?
If we don't raise the taxes, I was here when we raised the taxes to 27%. It's because we have 13 years of no tax increase. And many of the constituents were very vocal about why didn't we do a little at a time? Why didn't we have an increment here, a little bit there? And we needed that 27%, and you can see as time evolved that mayor was right with the 27%. If we don't raise it now, Ms. Gerlach, do you want to raise it next year, the year after? These are services that we must have. I don't want a Catherine going to South Whitehall Township. Our city is growing. The waterfront, J.B. Riley project, all of these things are going to take a lot of the police effort and the public works and so on and so forth. If we raise it just a bit, and as Mr. Santos right out, it is just, it's a certain amount.
Please keep the noise down in the background. Everybody else had an opportunity to speak. Please do the same for us.
My point here is, I don't like tax rates. No one does. And when I was campaigning, one of the things I campaigned on was public safety and also quality of life. And if we don't give these services to the people in the first ward all the way up to 40th Street, we're in trouble. We need to, a 4%, or 4.3%, 6%. If we don't do it this year, what's gonna happen next year? What's gonna happen in 2026? What's gonna happen? Are we gonna do the 13 years with no tax raise? And then all of a sudden, the mayor's gonna come in and say, listen, and we needed that. We had one fire truck. Our fire department, you can ask them, they were down to nobody. This money was being taken out of your services without you realizing it. And when you don't have your services, you come in to us every time, every council meeting, do something about the streets. Do something about the crime. Why don't we have more police officers out there? Why do I have to wait so long for an inspector? This is what we hear. I'm here 8 years. And the complaints keep coming in. But when we say, well, you know, we'd like to hire more police officers. We'd like to give those captains that he was talking about, out of a budget, you know how much it is? $12,000. Do you wanna lose a captain or two, top echelon? These officers are well-seasoned officers that we need to go to Whitehall and have less aggravation and make more money. We are a large city. We're the 3rd largest in Pennsylvania. We are going to have to raise taxes one way or another sometime. And I believe it was wrong for 13 years not to have it and to get hit. It was my 1st or 2nd year on council, and we were put down for that. Now we're asking, we haven't had a raise for 5 years. That's the last time we had a raise, was $27,000.
27%.
I mean, 27, yeah. 27%. Do we wanna do that again? If we take it little by little, year by year, and we keep our services, which are so important, when you need an ambulance, when you need the fire department, when you need the police department, when the east side is going to be developed in the next 4 or 5 years, the J.P. Riley project out there, the waterfront, we are expanding and we're getting larger and larger, and believe me, I know as a citizen, I want the services. So I'm encouraging my colleagues I agree with Mr. Napoli on the fact that a little bit here and there is going to help us. And we're able to keep the services that you need, and that we're not gonna sit up here on Wednesdays and listen to how bad the city's doing, how we don't get the streets done, how we can't get sweep, how we can't get the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saffa. Ms. Mo?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to say thank you for those residents that showed up. It is an extremely important meeting, as you know. And I do agree with you, Ms. Saffa, but the reality is our community is suffering. We cannot afford a tax increase. I believe that public safety, of course, is number one. You know, we all want to be safe. You know, we know the importance of public safety. But the reality is, another tax increase right now is not feasible. It's not, we cannot afford it. Have you guys ever seen the food banks in this area? Okay, 2 blocks, 3 blocks full of people. And it's true what Ms. Gerlach said. You might have a nice house, but you don't know what goes on. I mean, I was even thinking, I was talking to the mayor and about the water situation, and he says, yeah, this is the county. But the reality is, it is. But the water is gonna be raised. So it's gonna be the taxes increase, the trash and water. I was even thinking about taking a shower once a week. I mean, it's double whammy, you know? I mean, it's yeah, but think about it. It's gonna be hard in our residents, you know? Everything is going up, inflation. But what about our jobs? Are we getting paid more money? Okay, are we getting paid more money? The answer is no. No, we're not, no, we're not. You know, I understand that people are saying, yeah, you know, there's people trying to buy houses, that there's a shortage of inventory, but the reality is there's people moving from New York, New Jersey, coming to Allentown. And that's also one of the reasons why we are, you know, struggling. We have on shelters. I mean, we really have to think about this tax increase. I do appreciate, again, our fire, our police, our employees, but we have to think about our community. Our community is struggling and we cannot afford it. Taxes, trash, water, 27% water on 2018, okay? Tax increase. And then what happened? Then COVID hit. We're still recuperating from COVID. And to be honest with you, the jobs are not paying us more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moda. Mr. Zoll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to comment on some of the things that Ms. Moda said, but I'll allude to other things. I have never heard one citizen in the last 5 years tell me that when they called for a fire truck, it took them less time to get there than they will if they're called this year. I have not seen any depreciation in services in this city, only because we do have dedicated employees. And in case you didn't know this, last year, and I tried to tell my colleagues this, that all the positions that were created from ARPA would someday have to be paid for. And I believe that was 1.3 million, that could be a slight bit off there. Next year, guess what? We're probably gonna have to have an increase next year of something, because we're at now the bare minimum where we can take from. We've gotta replace that ARPA money for those positions that were voted on last year. And one more thing, is that in 2026, in the 5-year plan, there is already a projected increase of $500,000. So we're already looking at a tax increase in 2026 and we're not even there yet. The citizens are at bare minimum. As she said, the water rate's going up $100. You heard the individuals come in here and talk about the sewer system that's gonna be eventually have to be done. Can't even begin to tell you what that's probably gonna do to everyone. The citizens can no longer afford to take the responsibility for everyone else in this city. We need to step up. Yes, maybe we have to do a little more with less, but the citizens come first. So absolutely, I can tell you for sure, I will be letting you know. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Zuko. Yes.
Something that Mr. Zuko said, yes, in 5 years, we have not heard of anybody complaining about the fire department not being there, or the police department not being there. That's because of the 27% increase we had. Had we not had that increase, before that increase, we had one fire truck that was working. So when he makes that mention about the quickness and the efficiency of the police department, that's because we had a 27% increase. Suppose today, as we're sitting here, we had no increase. Can you imagine what those services would be like? I don't think you can make the same statement, Mr. Zuppel, now.
I would.
Same response, you think you have the same services?
Yes,
that you
sir,
had
yes, I would.
before the
I would,
27%?
I guarantee we would have the same services. We have dedicated employees.
I'd like to make a comment. I know it was mentioned that there's gonna be some concern about overtime. I can assure you that if we have any issues, we can always go back and make those amendments and offer money. There is money available to do that, and there's no doubt in my mind, if that we reach that point, my colleagues would support such a change. And that goes for all bureaus, police, fire, and anywhere else where it may be needed. I too will not support a tax increase. I feel there's too many people hurting. And again, the water rates are going up. Your trash rates are going up, and probably significantly beginning next year. There's too many people with inflation being extremely high over the last 2 years. We're at the point that we can do this without any cuts in service, I think is phenomenal, and I would please encourage my colleagues to go along with what has been proposed here. Thank you.
May I have a final comment? If appropriate, of course. So no politician, none of the 7 of you, no mayor, no controller wants to raise taxes. You don't want to do that. It takes courage to do it. No mayor wants to stand in front of residents, visit them at their doors, see them in the street, meet with them in the lobby of City Hall, meet with them in council chambers, and say that I'm proposing to raise taxes we're asking you to do this because the city needs it. It's us doing good by our residents. I understand the hurt that our residents are experiencing now. And I understand your desire to protect them from a hit to their pocketbook by saving $2 or $50 or $200. Our residents, as Candida mentioned, deserve these basic city services. We want to do that so that people can walk to Walmart if they have to through a snowstorm in clear streets. We want to make sure that everybody in our city, whether they're Second Ward or they're in Midway Manor, that they have access to clean parks, to clean streets, to safe streets. That's what we're asking for. We asked for an increase in this year. And Mr. Zubel mentioned a proposed increase in future years. That's exactly why we need to make a small increase in this year. It's so that it's not a more devastating future. You make small increases along the way. We are subject to that same level of inflation in the city. Road salt costs more than it did. Various different services, various different supplies cost more than they did. What you are asking us to do, if you do not authorize a small increase, is to do more with less. That's what you're asking for. And we have dedicated employees that will do all they can, but you will see our residents will be getting less. You will get the calls, they'll keep coming, and it will be because we haven't had the courage to do what we need to do for our entire city, for the 130,000 people that live here. So I'm asking you, I hear what you're saying, but I'm asking you to consider it. I'm asking you to consider the impact of not taking action today. It's not going to be zero. You need to be prepared for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hanlon, please conduct the vote.
Okay, on the motion to adjust the budget pursuant to motion.
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Allen, if you would, explain the vote, because we always have people that aren't sure what they're voting on, so.
Okay,
please
Mr.
explain.
Zuko made a motion, it was seconded by Ms. Moda. That motion is to adjust the budget in the following manner. There will be no upgrades, added positions, changes of titles pursuant to Memo 1 in all the funds except for the inspection certification program, the telecom technician position, 12 firefighters, financial analyst, sweep officer in solid waste, and MW to an 11M in solid waste, and the neutral fiscal change, such as the arborist being switched. There are a list of the people in codes. We move the front desk receptionist and equity and inclusion coordinator from the mayor's office and Department of Human Resources. We transfer the $130,000 budgeted for human resources consultant into the O2 account for the HR director, and the mayor's office will continue the positions in as they were in 2023 with the 3% increase, and we fund the managing director at $1, 10% decrease in all overtime budgets, and a 5% decrease in accounts 20 through 68. And yes, that's a net positive $400,000.
Okay, so a yes vote means that you agree with a 0 tax increase, a no vote means you do not.
Right, okay. Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Ms. Mona?
Yes.
Mr. Napoli?
No.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Zappa?
No.
Mr. President, 5 yeas, 2 noes.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon.
Mr. President, if we're moving right along with amendment number 3.
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion to adjust the ARPA funding in the following manner. And first, let me say this. None of us up here consider ourselves to be experts when it comes to divvying out funds that are provided to both the community and organizations. So this is kind of what we've come up with, and obviously you will get your say. and, but this was the best plan that we thought was the most benefit for everyone. I make a motion to amend the ARPA funding with the following allocation. 10 million to public safety buildings, 1.3 million from the 2024 positions noted above, another 1.3 million from the 2025 positions noted prior, 2.2 million for community reinvestment funds into the appropriate CED account and allow CED to distribute funds to organizations working with the city. Nonprofits such as Casa Guadalupe, the Boys and Girls Club, Arc Foundation, Promise Neighborhoods, Self, the Warming Station, Feathers, Ripple, CALV, the Caring Place, etc. And any other nonprofits serving the residents of Allentown.
I would like to second that.
Motion made by Mr. Zuko, second by Ms. Moda. Comment, Ms. Carlisle.
Yes, I will eventually get to an amendment, but the concern I have with this is, it essentially sets up, once again, all of our worthy nonprofits to compete for a very minuscule amount of money that won't have a great impact. We're talking they'll get 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, something like that. And that's, you know, that's cool, that they get a little something. They'll keep the lights on, maybe do a backpack drive or something like, that's great that they'll be able to do something small. In reading the ARPA, the ARPA language, ARPA is about doing big things. ARPA is about changing systemic issues that have plagued our communities for decades, for centuries. $300,000 to an organization, $500,000 for an organization, it's not gonna do that. It's gonna help them keep functioning. Maybe they can hire grants person. It will help them. I'm not gonna argue that. But it will not make that significant change in Allentown. We have heard, I was surprised to not see, in this configuration, we've heard from two entities that have came. One has been, well, actually really both have been coming for like over a year. Ripple is requesting $1.5 million, and the community center for the youth is requesting another $1.5 million. I do think that we owe those two items individually a vote. They've been coming. We've had other people, heck, we had a baseball stadium come and we entertained them and we voted yes or no. So I do think we owe those two entities a vote on them specifically rather than throwing them in a group and saying good luck. I would like to amend that amendment. And my amendment will be that we allocate $1.5 million to Ripple so that they can continue to house people, since housing is a human right. I would say also then $1.5 million to the community center, since the organization that will be running it is a trusted partner with the city, and they have a proven record of working with the city and making their initiatives come to fruition. We have no reason to not trust that they will do right by the money, because they've done right by the money in the past with CDBG funds and otherwise. Of course, included would be that $1.3 million in positions from 2025 and 2024. And I would like to keep that community reinvestment fund for, you know, organizations that maybe pop up, such as like Alliance for Building Communities. They need about $700,000 they can finish, so they can fill the gap to build affordable housing. So I would like to decrease it though to $1.2 million for the community reinvestment. And then the other would be to just a couple million decrease for public safety buildings, to go from $10 million just down to $8 million for the public safety buildings. So they would still be able to, you know, offset some of the loan that they will have to take out. So that's what I've got.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Gerlach to amend the motion made by Mr. Zuckel. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second made by Ms. Santos. Any comments?
I'd like to make an amendment.
Okay, we have to vote on that first. On this one, yes. Okay, motion made by Ms. Gerlach, seconded by Ms. Santos. Any
You say any comments?
comments? Yeah.
So are we voting on just her amendment, or just making sure I'm keeping up with her? There are two amendments in the store.
This is on the motion to amend made by Ms. Gerlach. So, right, Mr. Zuckel made some motion, and then, Ms. Gerlach made a motion to amend that. So the issue before you is whether you want to accept the amendments offered by Councilperson Gerlach.
So in a simple way to look at it is that Ms. Gerlach is replacing what Councilperson Zuckel said with 1.5 to Ripple, 1.5 to community center, 1.2 to community groups, and 8 million to public safety. She wants that instead of this.
As well as the 1.3 for the 2024 and 1.3 for 2025 position that we should retain that.
Yes.
So motion made by Ms. Gerlach, seconded by Ms. Santos and Mr. Hanlon. Anybody else in favor? Let's do it a voice vote.
Yeah.
Public comment?
Public comment. Yeah, did you want to comment? Good morning.
Good morning and thank you. Joseph Welsh, Executive Director, Lehigh Valley Justice Institute at 555 Union Boulevard, Allentown. A couple of things to keep in mind here on Ms. Gerlach's amendment, which I rise in support of. A budget is a list of priorities. It establishes what we value as a city and, more importantly, what we don't value. COVID money was meant primarily to address urgent needs in our community in, as Ms. Gerlach said, a big way. Any true fiscal conservative knows that municipal buildings really belong in a capital budget. So they're paid for over time by the people who are using them over time. And to Mr. Napoli's, Councilmember Napoli's point, here's how you keep the chips in the bag and keep the price the same. You put the municipal building projects in the capital budget. You take the COVID money and you use it to address the needs that two extraordinary women have brought before you. Ripple Project and the CALV project on the youth center. And how desperate is that youth center needed? Our study last year of mental health in the schools revealed that 1 in 9 children in middle and high schools of Lehigh County have attempted suicide. 1 in 9, and that comes from the Pennsylvania Youth Survey, an anonymous self-reported survey. That is a crisis that needs a big step to address it. And that's what Community Action has brought before you. They're a trusted partner you've worked with many times before. I know there's some concerns about, oh, well, will she, emphasis on the word she, bring this project complete to completion? Yes, she will. because she is a tremendous community leader. She leads an organization that she has grown. She has grown that organization. This past week, 400 people showed up for their annual dinner. That's more than ever in the history of that organization, going back to 1980s, have shown up for the annual event. So you've got the talent here, please use it. I mentioned back in committee that there is a big biblical imperative here. It comes from Mark chapter 10, verse 14. When the children were being brought to Jesus and the disciples were pushing them away, Jesus responded, as we learn in verse 14, but when Jesus saw it, he was very much displeased. And he said unto them, suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of God. And let me just leave you with an interpretation of that in a more modern realm. John F. Kennedy's closing line from his 1961 inaugural address. Let us go forth from this time and place to lead the land we love, asking his blessing and his help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must surely be our own. With your vote on this amendment, do God's work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No applause.
That's the First Amendment. Right. Yeah, I did.
Applause.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Ms. Phoebe Harris, Allentown School Board, NAACP. I'm also coming here for a CAC audit. Like the gentleman said, Ms. Phoebe, yes. Like the gentleman said, our children have tried in Lehigh Valley, and I'm going to Allentown because now that hit home. When my son was in high school, he tried to commit suicide. His senior year, twice. 18 to 22-year-olds, that's when they say that, you have to look out for them when those children are doing that. When my son's 22, I thought I was good. I was wrong. Last week he was committed again. We need this community center. Like yesterday. It's a game changer for our school district because we're changing what we're changing with our new superintendent, and we're going forward and changing a lot of things and making sure that our children are finally gonna be, the whole child will be educated, the whole child. Along with that, we need partners to help sure that whole child is educated and given those resources that are needed that they don't have in their own home. So we're asking you to give that money for that. But also, with the extra money that you have for ARPA, the NAACP went to the mayor this year for the convention. I went to the NAACP convention 1983. And one of the things that happened was in New Orleans. And I got to meet, at that time, the candidate for vice president, George H.W. Bush. And he said, open doors are fine, but open minds are important for both sides of dialogue. That was the 80s when we met. Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan used to talk to each other. Now we're so polarized. I got to meet him as an 18-year-old. This is what, and so we asked the mayor for the money. He said he would give it. All we asked for was $5,000. We didn't get it. He said no, later on. You did. So, I'm asking with that ARPA funds, when we ask for those things, I don't know who is the one to say yes or no, but I think it should be taken out the mayor's hand and given to another committee. Because at least that way, we got a fair chance of when we ask for money, someone will be able to give it to us. And we can put a proposal in. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Rodriguez.
Good morning, Mr. President, and thank you first for enduring such a meeting early in the morning on a Saturday morning. It's actually better than a Saturday night looking for a 20% tax increase. So Just wanted to point out the amendment actually exceeds the amount of the 2.2 that you actually saying that want to allocate for community services. Okay, so you asking for, Ms. Gerlach's asking for 1.5 for RIPO, 1.5 for community center, 1.3 for community reinvestment fund, and some others. So that exceeds the 1.2, 2.2 that is already, that is being proposed in the original amendment for every organization, community organizations. So, although I'm with the Housing Authority, I'm actually speaking, making sure that, you mentioned Casa Guadalupe, which is another organization, and I just wanted to make sure you think about those issues as for other community organizations that also need support from the city. So that's all. Thank you very much, and keep up the good job.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, City Council members. My name is Gracie. I have been a longtime resident of 25 years, I'm 25 years old. So I'm just gonna be reading from what I've written so that I don't go over time or waste time. So prior to 2019, there was never a housing fund in the budget of Allentown, which states the housing fund was created in 2019 to increase the capacity for community development through assistance in financing, technical support, and encouragement for the creation and preservation of affordable housing for households at or below 80% of the area median income in the city of Allentown. In 2019 and further years, it was at $300,000, the housing fund, and only increased by $3,000 in 2021, and the last of the fund is back down to $300,000. According to the public City of Allentown budgets, in 2023, the funds are being used for the housing study, which is designed to address the City of Allentown's needs, assessment, and strategic plans for housing needs. Now, whether between revenue and expenditures, the Golf Course Fund within the City of Allentown's budget for years has been well over $1.5 million and has only increased over the span of a few years. Meanwhile, according to the City of Allentown budgets, there is no proposed budget for the housing fund for 2024. I don't envy your position, and the fact that there's a full house here this morning reflects the love and concern for Allentown. I have been attending community gatherings. The meetings are resident-centered because we believe that the solutions to the problems that affect our neighborhoods may be found among our neighbors. We have been resolving some issues and developing future actions for others. The issues of affordable housing has dominated our talks in recent months. Families are feeling unheard and desperate for an affordable place to live. I believe everyone in this room can agree on one point. Every child deserves a warm place to sleep at night and to have their basic needs satisfied. That is something you have the power to accomplish today. There are numerous needs in the community, yet we are in a housing crisis with no viable solutions for unsheltered families. Working families are being priced out of the market. This one-time investment will provide permanent housing for 12 families and will have a long-term impact. This investment will be revolutionary, and we believe that low-income housing is another way to address public safety, which is what you guys have been speaking about tonight. This morning. Now, there are resources that are not necessary to keep the city thriving, especially when there is a major contrast between 40th Street and Ridge Avenue. In closing, there is a quote that says, "When your values are clear to you, making decisions becomes easier." Now, when a community is asking for funds to create affordable housing, I expect from my city a change to be made. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Just may I add one real quick point for clarification. So that the housing fund is in fact fully funded at $300,000, but the fund itself, Tracy, with the $300,000 that are there will be used to fund the results of the housing study. So it doesn't pay for the housing study, and the reason that it's in the budget this year at zero is that there's no additional increase to the housing fund. So the $300,000 remain there, but I don't think it detracts from Gracie's point that we do need to invest in housing in the city of Allentown.
Thank you for that clarification. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Council President and council members. I stand before you today to discuss a vital initiative that is close to our hearts and critical to the well-being of our community. I'm here to request your support in securing $1.5 million in funding from the remaining ARPA dollars to help us build a youth center in the city of Allentown. I understand there might be some misconceptions about our organization. Yes, we are a large nonprofit, but I would like to clarify that our need for this funding is as significant as any other community project. Telling you in a previous meeting that we have no debt was not an attempt to tell you that we have no need. Telling you that we have no debt was to stress our fiscal responsibility. Unlike corporations or some other organizations, we don't make widgets that generate revenue with each sale. Our mission is to serve our neighbors and make a positive impact in the lives of our community. This means our fiscal model is different. We rely on the generosity of others to fund the critical projects that we undertake. We have to ask for and raise funds in order to complete the projects in our scope. This youth center is one of those projects. The center is more than just a building, it's a safe haven for our young residents, a place for learning, growth, and recreation. By investing in this facility, we are investing in the future of our community. It will be a place where children and teenagers can thrive, learn, and develop essential life skills. A place where families can find resources and support. It's an investment in the betterment of our city. I'd like to emphasize that while community action is fiscally responsible and efficient in our operations, the cost of this project goes beyond our current resources. We need your support to make it a reality. With $1.5 million in ARPA funding, we can make an impact on this $20 to $23 million project and bring this venture to fruition. I urge you to consider the long-term benefits of investing in the city's youth by investing in this youth center. Our community's future leaders and innovators will emerge from your support and resources that they receive within these walls. By approving this funding, you will not only be helping us construct a physical building, but also building a brighter future for our city. The data given by the Lehigh Valley Justice Institute on depression and suicide was dark. Please invest in our kids now so that they don't end up homeless in Ripple Center later. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to your support in making this vision a reality for our community. I pray that together we can create a better future for all of our children and residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Sherry Brocka-Binder. I'm here as the Executive Director of Ripple Community Inc. If I may, I would like just to ask everyone who's here on a Saturday morning in support of this project to just raise their hands briefly. Thank you. Members of council, I want to thank you for your careful consideration of our request for support for our project at 1547 Chew Street. This project is a remarkable opportunity for our community. It will create 12 units of safe, healthy, deeply affordable housing for our families who are struggling with homelessness. It will create a community space where our residents and neighbors can gather in a place where they feel truly welcome. And as a community psychologist, I can tell you the importance of those spaces is that they allow our residents to come in, trade in their isolation and loneliness, which are fatal, for connection, which is healing. Housing, a community space, and thirdly, a medical respite space overseen by our incredible partners at Valley Health Partners that will save lives. That's 12 to 20 lives if you want to do the math each year, of people who are homeless, because it will allow them to access life-saving medical care that they would otherwise be denied just because of their lack of housing. I've shared the why of this project, why it's important. I've shared what we're going to be doing. I'd like to just share briefly how. How did we get here? First, we got here with the support of our partners and our neighbors. Before we ever closed on this property, we went to the West Park Civic Association to share about our hopes and our plans for this building. And I have to say, those conversations, we were met with overwhelming support. It was humbling. Not just because of what the project will do for the community, but because it will breathe life into a beautiful historic building and allow it to continue to serve the community going forward. This is a project that has been born from partnership, beginning with the donation of the church and evidenced by the incredible work of our partner organizations who are standing alongside us and lending their support. We've been proactive at every step, including meeting early and often with HARB, meeting early and often with zoning and others, all of whom have been immensely helpful as we have navigated this process. And with the help of our construction team, we built a solid plan that, provided these funds are in place, will allow us to move these families into their new homes in 18 months. I want to be clear that what we are asking of you today is a one-time capital investment. This is a need that we will have today and then have again tomorrow or next year. It is a one-time need for capital funding so that we can do this work and reap our benefits. So we are asking you as leaders today to support this effort so that when we are all asked, what did we do when we learned that our families were sleeping in cars outside of our schools because they had no better options? And when we're asked, what did we do when we saw a crisis of homelessness ballooning up in every corner of our community, we can say, here's what we did. We invested of ourselves and our resources. We took advantage of the opportunities that we were given. We found our courage and we put in the work and we made the choices that made our city a place where everyone, all of our neighbors, can have a foundation of safe and stable housing where they can put down roots in their community and build a good lives for themselves and their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Please forgive my appearance, but it is a weekend, so I took a motorcycle.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Thanks again, please forgive my appearance. My name is Seth Campbell. I'm a physician assistant and program director for Valley Health Partners Street Medicine. I take care of folks who are currently unsheltered, staying in the streets, and suffering. In my role, I try to reconcile the patient-provider relationship and tilt the scales of authority into my patient's favor. There's many beautiful people here, including yourselves, that showed up today. But I would argue the most beautiful people that I've ever met are my patients. They would be here today to advocate for Ripple. That's why I'm here to advocate for Ripple, that you support them and their housing initiative. But my patients couldn't make it because they don't have transportation to get here, and they're currently attempting to stay warm and survive outside. Please give them the opportunity to find housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Kim Schaefer. Many of you know me in my role as Executive Director of Community Bike Works. We are in the Franklin Park neighborhood, and we share that neighborhood with Ripple, and I'm here to strongly support our neighbors at Ripple. RCI has been an incredible resource to the families of the Franklin Park neighborhood and the city of Allentown. And at Community Bike Works, we know that when our families are facing housing insecurity or homelessness, or we have teens who are in trouble, we know that we can call on RCI and they will help us. They have housed our families. We have seen the life-changing results from helping a mother and her daughter or families with housing that is safe, decent, and affordable. We know that Ripple is at capacity, and so often, we can't, we call Ripple, but they can't help our families. They're at capacity, and we would be a much stronger city with their ability to do more. You know me as the Executive Director of Community Bike Works, where I've been for 11 years now. You may not know that before that I was a senior staff member at the National Low Income Housing Coalition in DC for 10 years. And I want to tell you, as part of, from my experience in that role, we are so fortunate to have an organization like Ripple in our city. They are a model organization with outstanding leadership who has done so much good work for the city of Allentown and for our Franklin Park neighborhood. And cities around the country would fall over themselves to have an organization as strong as RCI. We have a once in a generation opportunity to invest in the housing insecure families of the city of Allentown, and I hope you will put your trust in Ripple to make that difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. This is an opportunity to make a huge difference. $1.5 million to Ripple does a huge difference. And the reason is 1 out of every 5 students in Allentown School District is homeless or hungry. Now, 1.5 million to the actual youth center is a huge difference, because we're not just investing in our today, but also investing in our future. See, I was blessed. I grew up in New York City, and my mother was a welfare mom. She lived 2 blocks away from a community center. That community center allowed me and all 3 of my brothers to graduate from a prep school. That community center allowed me to be the first black child to ever go to Moravian Academy and break the color barrier. That community center saved my life, because when I was getting in trouble, when New York was too much in the 80s, I was able to dribble a basketball and then start to read. I was able to dribble a basketball. My brother, who wasn't good at basketball, was able to get into hockey. My youngest brother's a professional juggler, travels the world as a professional juggler because a community center was put up in our neighborhood. Someone decided that it was enough to invest in the youth and give them some kind of hope. Our city doesn't have that. Our city doesn't have a community center where our kids can go to. Our city doesn't have a community center where our parents can come congregate. Our city doesn't have a space that provides the necessary relief from the consistent violence that is around us. Because poverty is violence. We're not just talking about gun violence. Poverty is violence. You have a chance with this ARPA money to address poverty right now and put an investment for poverty in the future by giving these kids hope. See, I know how great CACLV is, or CALV is because while I come up here every week, every 2 weeks for over 5 years, fighting for the same credible messenger money, when I was stuck, Dawn came to my plan. She came to my aid. When I had to fight, I never had to call them twice. They're gonna always find a way to work with us. These are great community partners. I've seen people come through Ripple. I've had families that I know not only land on their feet, but were able to lift others up because of what happened in their stay at Ripple. So when we make these investments, make sure we make these investments for not just the short term, but for long-term investments that allow our babies to continue to thrive. This is a one-time investment. We only got this ARPA money one time. What are you gonna do with this one time? You know, this is the time that you get to make that real impact. You know, I don't know if those numbers were right, you know, because I didn't calculate, I didn't pull my calculator out, but 1.3 needs to go to community organizations. 1.5 has to go to Ripple. 1.5 has to go to our community center. And then you figure out the rest later. You know, we gotta invest in the people if you want the people to invest in you.
Thank you.
Morning.
I'm Julie Ambrose, and I'm representing I'm representing the Greater Valley YMCA Board. My colleague,
Mike Petrosky, Allentown YMCA Program Director.
the Greater Valley YMCA Allentown branch is seeking $75,000 annually, whether through the budget or through the ARPA funds, in support of an investment in our 23-24 warming station, which opens in just 12 days on November 15th. Prior to 2018, the city of Allentown tried to run a warming station for our residents. Many of our most residents in need to have a warm place to stay during the winter months, and that was being done at Fountain Park in the pool house. That project was very problematic for the city and had to close. In 2018, when no other local organization was able or willing to fill this crucial need, the Y stepped up, mobilizing the station in less than 10 weeks. Since this time, the Y has not only operated the station, but has made improvements to the program services and facilities, investing over $500,000 in the facility while also partnering with Valley Health Partners Street Medicine Program on-site weekly at the station, with treatment trends on-site weekly at the station, as well as serving supper meals to guests 7 nights a week. We are the only program in the city to serve free supper meals to adults. All of the foundational funding partners from our original 5 years of operation have renewed their commitment to the station, except the city of Allentown. Lehigh County, City Center Allentown, and First Presbyterian Church have all increased their support, but the city is the only partner who has not renewed their commitment despite conversations since spring. Our increased ask for support emanates from an exponential increase in mental health issues with our guests, which can sometimes lead to violence. We seek additional support to add more security and a caseworker specializing in mental health to our staffing in order to address these needs and best help our guests, our residents. Our station has become a safe place for adult men and women in need of support and help. And these are the tools we feel we need to make this possible. We maintain continuous collaborative work with Ripple Community Center, with the Lehigh Conference of Churches, and our branch executive director has collaborative conversations with Bethlehem Emergency Sheltering as well. We know several of our board members have discussed this essential need with council members, and we are appreciative of your consideration and swift action given our imminent opening timeline. We're very grateful for your willingness to support this ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Andrea Brown-Noel. I'm here to speak on behalf of my neighborhood, 18102. I live on 16th and Turner. And I really want to talk about the impact of collaboration and what that has done to my community. Because of the collaboration of community action, Ripple, Allentown School District, and the City of Allentown, we were able to impact over 140 students this summer. That's what collaboration did to that neighborhood. And if it wasn't for the support, the direct support of community action and the direct support of Ripple allowing us to have a space to be able to conduct that summer camp, those kids would not have been housed, they would have been on the streets, they would not have been safe, and God knows what would have happened. The impact that the community center and the affordable housing would have in my neighborhood would be major, major. It will keep the kids off the streets. It would help with our homeless issue. Again, I live on 16th and Turner, right across from West Park and Allen High School. So I walk my dog in the park. We see the homeless people in the park. And we do the best that we can as a community. We come together and collaborate with how we can support those families. Again, the students that are there, we know some of the things that are spoken about that's happening at Allen High School. It's a good school. There are great students there. They just need support. And if we have this community center and where it's gonna be based in that neighborhood, it will have major impact, not only on the quality of life for students, for their safety, and also their education. If we build this affordable housing, it's helping the same students. 40 students that were in our summer camps were housed at the 6th Street shelter. 40 students. We brought them back and forth. I can't tell you what those kids were going through in the day-to-day. And we had to make sure that we treated them just as everyone else and protected them, gave them a safe space, make sure that they were fed, and make sure they really realized that they belong.
That's right.
And if you guys make this additional collaborative investment, as you have done before, I know that it's gonna do a great work for the city. It will. And I thank you, CC, for making this motion, because as you can see, community partners are standing here and we're not asking for money for ourselves. We're asking money for these initiatives. We know it will have an impact. So thank you so much for making this motion, and I pray that you guys make this decision in their favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll be brief. I wasn't intending to speak today. My name is Christopher Kefro, and I'm in support of the Ripple Community Center. I was not intending to be here today, but then I thought about the things that I had to deal with today and realized that none of them will cause me to experience homelessness. And so, hearing yourself speak on Wednesday's meeting that this is our money and we should be here on Saturday to help impact the decision, I thought it was important to be here. So, I mean, Sherry did a great job talking about what it does. The other component to that is it supports 12 families, that most of which will have children. Those children will not be sleeping in cars, they will not be couch surfing, they will not be changing school districts over and over again as they go through their daily lives. They'll have stable places to live, and again, the respite center will essentially save lives as people will be able to experience medical treatments that they could otherwise. So I appreciate the amendment. I don't envy your decisions. I know this is a very difficult job, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Almost good afternoon. Jessica Ortiz, resident for 45 years. That's how old I am. Born and raised here, went to school here, graduate of high school. Part of the prisoner pipeline, the first to be arrested at Central Elementary School for acting out for being raped and molested in school. I was trying to figure out, do I come as a resident? Do I speak as the director? But I can't be two people. I am only one person, right? Ripple is going to put 12 houses, right? And Community Action is gonna build a youth center, right? So those are the columns, but guess what? This is me, right here, right now. I support housing, I support the community center, because as Ms. Dawn been here, I've been there with her and come to meetings and make sure it's supported, but it's gonna take 5 years. So what happens to the organization who take care of the problems now? Who actually act now, who show up now, who help build housing now, we are solving the problems now. It is unfair, and I was really surprised, CC, out of all people, to hear you say, because they're a trusted partner, they should get more because they have the resources to get more. I felt so colonized and oppressed by that sentence, because I could do more if I had more. I only can take care of what my finances can take care of at the ARC. Let me say, when that man was gonna cry, I almost lost it. Seniors are dying. Seniors make up 12%, and their suicide rate is 18% because they can't afford to live. The ARC services 350 people minimal a week with no grant money, with no CDBG funding, with no partnerships. That's what we fund. Not to say that we don't have partners and sometimes we don't get other donations, but we, the Ortiz ARC Foundation team, services 300 seniors, youth, homeless. We have 38 homeless individuals who use our office as their residence. On occasion, they sleep in the ARC. My husband sleeps over with them because, again, we can't just have homeless people sleeping there. But imagine when a mother and 4 kids comes to you and she's sleeping outside. How do you live with yourself when you don't have a budget? We have to be considered. I respect that Andreen said that we're not, but I am saying the organizations that are everyday boots on ground. The other day I called Chief Roca and had the police pick up 40 pounds of marijuana from my house. The Jessica that people say I am should have put that back on the street, flipped that, and had made some housing. But we turned that money over, and those are the things we do regularly. You know what is 40 pounds of marijuana? I got pictures in case you don't. It's a lot on the street, and it could have helped a lot of lives. We are helping stop crime, keeping the community safe, helping people understand financial stability, and picking up the pieces while people figure it out. We deserve to be acknowledged, not only as an organization, but as residents. There was a comment made at a real estate event the other day that the people and the residents are winning the battle. The audacity to think that that was a bad thing.
Thank you. Okay, seeing nobody else.
I just wanted to
Ms.
clarify,
Miller?
so just in case anyone is hesitant, the numbers add up. So we've got 8 million for the public safety buildings, 1.3 million for the 2024 positions, 1.3 million for the 2025 positions, 1.5 million to Ripple. The decrease is in the community reinvestment fund, that would go down to 1.2 million, and then 1.5 million to the community center. The numbers add up.
Thank you.
I have a couple comments. First, when I read about, or when I hear about the community recovery funds, I'm not against it, but I am against taking something that we can't figure out and just offloading into CEA. I think that's, I couldn't imagine doing that to a department that we just told an hour ago that we're not gonna support with any extra support. I think it's just too much for them to handle, and I think if we're gonna handle it, we should handle it if we're gonna do it, because it's our job. I don't think we should be dumping that on anyone else. I think that's inappropriate. Secondly, regarding the amendment, we talk about taking $2 million away from public safety, from our central fire station, and we go back to, these are really difficult decisions. We know we need a fire department, a firehouse at Central. That goes without saying. We know the police need better resources at their headquarters, and we have to figure it all out. We have to balance it, but at what cost? And that's something that we have to figure out. When we look at taking $2 million away from the firehouse and from the police station, it's going to be an extra $2 million we have to go out to bond. And at the rates we're looking at right now, we're looking at around $2 to $2.5 million of extra interest that we're giving our future council members to deal with, our future administration to deal with. And that's something that I know we live in now, and I know we have to do things now. I get that. But as a business owner, I'm always looking at the future. And I'm always thinking about, what do we do now, and how does it affect me 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And that's something that's important to have a conversation, and at least be aware of it. No matter what we do, just be aware that those numbers are out there. Me personally, I would, this is something where I think is getting complex, and I think there's some opportunities to bring in some more resources from other funds to help make this work. I don't think we can figure it out today in the next 10 minutes, but my thought process is, to revisit this. Ripple, I'm a strong supporter of. The folks who know me know that I am 100% behind Ripple. I'm a strong supporter of CALB. I think the youth center makes a ton of sense, but I just don't know if we can do it all. And I think we have to have a conversation about how we can make this work. And I don't know if we can jam that in over the next 5 minutes and make a rash decision. That's just my thought. I want to figure out a way to help all these folks, because they're all valid. And I just, with what we're working with at this moment, I just don't know how we can do it without taking away from the firehouse and the police station. So that's just my thought. I was thinking about making an amendment. If we are going to do it today, Mr. Hanlon, ARPA, we have the final number? Do we have is it 2.2 and 12.2?
Yeah, I think what Ms. Gerlach said is correct. All the numbers are adding up. Yeah, it's 2.2.
12.2. Oh, 2.2.
12.2.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, if we're gonna do it today, I just feel like not everyone's gonna get funding, and I just don't want it to happen. So I just want, my hope is to revisit it and see if we can figure out a way to help everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
I agree with Mr. Santo. I also agree Ms. Gerlach. Chipping away, and it doesn't seem like we're getting a bang for our buck. I'm in full support of Ripple. So many of you out there, we'd love to give you all the money we can. But chipping away at it is not the solution. I would like to see that one thing is not negotiable with me is the 10 million to public safety, 5 for the police department, 5 for the fire department. That, excuse me, that for me is non-negotiable. I believe we need that. You can see the paper showed how the fire department literally is falling apart. I would love to give Ripple $1 million to $1.5 million. I would like to support the community center and give them money and call it a day. I agree with Mr. Napoli by saying this reinvestment thing, we're throwing it in the laps of the CD department. They don't have enough to do, and now we're gonna throw this on them. I think it's our responsibility, and I think we could try we have $12.2 million left. If we can do the 10 million for the public safety, I'm willing to give Ripple $1 million, community center, the community, $1 million and 200,000 for other things that we may need, like Ortiz Foundation, or they can apply for that. But that's what this is what I'd like to do. And do I make an amendment for that, or my opinion, or whatever?
Well, there's a motion.
No, we already have the motion, we have to vote on this one first.
Which one?
Ms. Gerlach.
Oh, okay.
But comment, Mr. Zucco.
Yeah. Cece, would you be amenable to this amendment? We have 2.2, okay? I just want to say that if you remember in the past, we did give 1.5 million to the project of 1528 Hamilton Street to help with affordable housing. We gave 1 million to Mr. Strauss for the project at 9th and Walnut to help with affordable housing. So we have contributed to affordable housing. However, I do believe that the Ripple project is a good project. There's no question in my mind that we need a facility for our youth. So my amendment, well, not amendment, but my offer to you would be to give $1 million to each of those two organizations, Ripple and CALB. That leaves 200,000. Mr. Hanlon and the controller said we have roughly around 300,000, so that's close to $500,000. And then the other $500,000 we have a pie, the pie's only so big. That other $500,000 could be distributed. We have to the end of 2024 actually to do this. So even though today's our budget hearing, we do have some time to divide that other 500 up some other way. Now, do we do it through the CD? I don't know, but that 500 would be there.
Okay, so to reach, yeah,
Yes.
what's
It's not 500, 1 million, 200,000.
Right, but I'm saying the extra roughly 300,000 we had, you said.
So that's in the general fund, that's something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we're talking,
200,000.
so then
Basically
we're,
what Ms. Hoffman said.
so then we're talking 10 million towards, the buildings.
Yeah, even though I agree with Mr. Welch, that should be a capital project. However, we have the funding, let's use it.
And then we're talking $1 million towards Ripple, $1 million towards the community center.
Yes.
And then 200,000.
And hopefully some extra money.
We might as well even do that's chump change, 200,000 for a bunch
I
of
know.
organizations to compete against.
I agree. I'm saying, maybe there's some other money we can shuffle around.
Well,
It's
I
my
would say,
offer. It's my offer.
procedurally, I think you can do two motions to amend, and then you're at the end of the cul-de-sac, okay? So what we have is we have a motion, and we have a motion to amend. And now if you wanted to, someone could try to amend your amendment, but the point is to what end? I think she'd try to get a sense perhaps of where it's going.
And I'm able to reconfigure my amendment as long as my second.
Well, it hasn't been voted on yet, as long as your second.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I put
believe that public safety is really important, so I would not want to see public safety being cut. But I do understand that, I would like to support Ripple and I would like to support the youth center. But at the same time, I also would like to support the other nonprofits, because during COVID, I can attest to this, they were there. A lot of people were hiding, and many nonprofits were out there helping the community. So I believe that would be unfair not to support them. So I don't have a motion right now, but they also need support. And 200,000 is not, it's nothing, it's not a lot. So I really believe that we should revise this.
So,
Revisit this.
so I would be okay with, taking, Mr. Napoli's, suggestion of voting on this. Could we vote on this on Wednesday so that we can figure out, because I think there's some level of consensus on this council. We want Ripple to get money, we want the community center to get money, and we want the nonprofit organizations to money. We want people to be safe.
And we want people to be safe, so no cuts for the fire and the police.
And so then we have to figure out the numbers on how to achieve that. I will, because I gotta push back, public safety is more than cops, EMS, and firefighters. Public safety is, it's street lights, it's community gardens, it's community centers, it's, access to fresh food. Yes, cops are public safety, obviously. Cops are public safety. Firefighters are public safety. EMS is public safety. And as the point that's been made, if someone's hungry, they're gonna do what they gotta do to eat. If someone's needs are not being met, they're gonna do what they have to do. So crime will continue to increase as long as the people's needs are not met. So to Cynthia's point, Dr. Moda's point, we need to make sure that this money is being used to address those needs. And what I would say, since public safety is everyone's number one issue, that we broaden what we think of as public safety. And because we have that broadened and more holistic approach to public safety, that will help us address how to spend this ARPA money. If we can keep kids off the street, that's gonna decrease gun violence for the chief. If we can keep people from stealing, that's gonna increase the incarceration rate down at the jail. So it all works together.
Yes. I agree.
And no one is trying to defund the police. I'm so sick of hearing that being thrown out there like no one's trying to defund the police. My record on voting for police is pretty public, and in my configuration, am giving the police $8 million. Like, that is not defunding. We are not defunding.
This is not about giving the police money or the fire money.
Convoluted here, if I may, we get away far from where we're at.
I'd like to make a statement as far as we're talking about a building. We're talking about the quarters, we're talking about a fire department. It's not defunding police, it's not about that.
It was stated earlier, man. You interrupted me.
If I continue, then I will have a turn.
No.
Please, Mr. President. I'm asking her to rebut what she has to say about the public safety. And if she's, I will let you finish, I'm sorry.
I would say that you have a motion on the table.
Yeah, we have
That's
to,
the motion.
let's stick to the motion being made here. And the only thing I will say regarding police and fire, the funding of those will save us significant taxpayer dollars going forward, which will be able to be used for those things most important, homeless and everything else. There is a direct correlation there to that, and the saving of money to the taxpayers of the city of Allentown, which is our main purpose.
So what I'm saying is, if we all are saying we want to do all of this stuff, something's gotta give. We can't do everything with a limited amount of money. So what I tried to do with my motion is to still fund those buildings at $8 million and fund the community organizations and Ripple and the community center and the positions that we've gotta pay for. That's what my motion tries to accomplish, $8 million towards those buildings.
No, you're right, but Mr. Zuckel too made, asked about making the motion to
I
amend
would
it.
like to respond to this.
To $1 million and $1 million.
Yeah, I get it, and, if we do vote today or we vote on Wednesday, I see
We
that.
have a meeting Wednesday, do we?
No, we don't.
I would suggest this, what you could do is vote on something today, just leave something unallocated and come back.
I would like to try to vote on let's just vote on the 10 million. And what I'm trying to explain to people is that if we don't use this $10 million, it's not fighting crime, it's not defunding police. 10th Street Police Station is falling apart. The fire station is falling apart. You must have read the article in the Morning Call. This is buildings we must build, and if we don't use this $10 million that we have, the ARPA fund, in a year, 2 years, whatever, it's gonna come out of tax money, and we're gonna be sitting here again when the mayor comes up with his budget. Well, we have to build this building, and there's so many other buildings. So this is not about public safety and the police department defunding them or anything like that. It's your money that will be spent in the near future if we don't fix those two buildings. So today, I'm proposing we at least come to some concessions about the $10 million for the buildings, for the fire and the police. If we can vote on that, then we can squabble about the other $2.2 million.
Okay, the only, I think, where we are procedurally is that, Councilperson Gerlach made a motion to amend the, motion that was originally made by Councilperson Zuckel, and I think it would be appropriate to take a vote on that. I do not believe that she accepted any friendly amendment of her motion, so I think we're back at the same numbers, which I have as 1.5 Ripple, 1.5 Community Center, 1.3 2024 positions, 1.3 2025 positions, 1.2 Community Reinvestment Fund, and reducing the public safety buildings piece from 10 million to 8. I believe that is the motion.
Yes,
So-
and I'll stand by my motion.
Okay, can I just ask one question?
Sir.
To the mayor? And since I don't, and I agree with them, as far as those items being a capital project, is it, how detrimental is it that we would not be able to get to 1 million?
So I think Santa's calculations related to potential debt service related to, we'd have to just borrow the extra 2 million as part of the total project.
Wow, okay.
Right, which would have the associated debt service.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, are we ready to vote on, Ms. Gerlach's, motion to amend the motion? Ready? Okay, everybody understands it? So, all right, so 8 million public safety, 1.2 community reinvestment, 1.5, to the concept, to the community center, 1.5 to Ripple, and 1.3 to 24 and 25 for the positions listed in the ARPA budget. Okay, we have Ms. Mona.
No.
We have Mr. Napoli.
No.
Ms. Santos.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
No.
Mr. Hendricks.
No.
Ms. Affo.
No.
And Ms. Grillo.
Yes.
So we're gonna have 2 yeas, 5 nays. So we're back to, Mr. Zuko's motion, and Mr. Zuko's motion was 10 million in public safety, 1.3 and 24 and 25, and then 2.2 community reinvestment fund.
No, no, I don't think that was, I thought it was 1 and then 200,000.
You suggested it.
Oh,
That
okay.
change.
Yes, I just stand corrected.
We're back to the original motion.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, repeat that again.
So this is like a piece of paper. The initial motion that Mr. Zuckel made was the 10 million for public safety, 1.3 for the 24 art positions, 1.3 for the 25, and 2.2 million for community reinvestment funds. And that would be put into a CD account, Community Economic Development account, for them to distribute. And there was a second to that. That's where you're at.
Please, Mr. Allen, I'm sorry. The 10 million for that, what were the other two items?
So 10 million in public safety, and show us the first configuration. So 10 million in public safety, 1.3 for our positions funded by ARPA in 24 and 25, and then 2.2 million for the community reinvestment funds.
Okay. Mr. Glazer?
If I may, just, not only good or bad, but our CED department continues to always do more with less. This puts a significant burden on them. If this passes, that money's not going out the door in January or February, maybe not March, April, or May. They need to come up with a process. They need to give all the parties who are interested in those funds an opportunity to present. This could be a long time, and quite honestly, they're not overstaffed. They've got their hands full doing what they do now. My other concern about this is the oversight of these funds, which, you know, professionally I think is vitally important, and we should also, because we want whatever money we spend in the community to be well spent and properly spent. There's also a need for oversight there. And while they do their best, sometimes it falls to the controller's office to say, no. And there have been many instances in the past where checks have been held and maybe vendors, or not vendors, but applicants not paid because they didn't follow the rules. And that shows the system works, but it would be better if there was more capacity upstream so it's done right the first time. So this is kind of like an unintended consequence, kind of like the garage bringing back in-house, which was a good idea, even though it's raised our costs significantly, is that now we found out that purchasing has a great load, much more work to do to service that department. My office has a much greater load to do the department, and all the clerks and fleet are working real hard just to get those invoices paid. So as you make this decision, please consider that and understand it may affect how it rolls out in 2024 and even into 2025. Thank you, Mr. President.
Should we be included on this conversation?
Yeah, can we have public comment? Could we have a public comment?
Yeah, and now that y'all changing the vote again, public comment should be open.
Yeah, I agree. We went from her amendment back to the original, so yes.
Comments?
Yeah, I don't have to walk over there. I guess I have a question.
State your name.
Yep. Nice to meet you guys. Good morning. My name is Blake Henry. I live at 16th and Turner. Andrew is my neighbor. I just have a question about some of the funds, right? We're talking about 10 million versus 8 million for police and fire, and I believe they do need to be supported. But where are the plans and what's the time frame for spending that money as well? Because I do believe there is a time frame when we can spend the COVID relief money, correct? So,
The end of 2026.
okay, so are there any plans in place for it?
End of September 2026.
So, is there a plan in place right now for both of those projects when there are plans in place for two community projects that will benefit the community? And it's what the community who has shown up today has said that they would like to see. That is my question.
I'm gonna answer it. There are plans for both of those. The police building and the fire consultant has been hired.
Right, okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Pat Simpson, again, I came up here last time, and we didn't mention incredible messenger money. I was willing to let that go. Over a year ago, you guys passed, you voted for $1.5 million to go to credible messengers in order for us to help with community safety. The only way you see community safety is police and fire. There are people that have been out here fighting every single day that you refuse to fund. We then came up here and said, hey, we don't care about that money. You're never gonna give it to us anyway.
Right.
So let's fund the kids and the homeless people to end the violence. And then you say, no, that's not good enough either. Like, what are you gonna do? When do you guys, first of all, care about how we feel?
Please.
I'm talking, stop, I can do this. I am not out of line, stop
You're
doing that.
yelling. Please talk.
I can speak any way I want to, I'm passionate, I can do that. I didn't curse, I didn't step out of line, stop doing that. That's a rude way and it's bullying, that's violence, that's violence. Please pay attention, that's violent. I can be as passionate as I want to. Passion is good. So stop interrupting and listen. Listen with your ears, not with your mouth. I will wait. Does my time restart while he keeps interrupting? Because that's not right. Does my time stop when he interrupts?
Please finish.
So please stop. Okay, again, we came up here, and as community members, as nonprofit organizations, I run a nonprofit myself, I didn't mention that. I didn't talk about the fight. We talked about what's really going on, and you guys ignoring that stuff. You guys keep doing what you want to do, not based on anything the people said. Candida said she ran on safety and all that stuff, and that incredible messenger money sat in her committee for a year, only for it to disappear and not go where the community wants it anyway. Only for it to not go where it wants anyway. You know what I mean? It happens, and it continues to happen. $10 million, and I support the chief. I think he's amazing, and I think our chief of fire is amazing. But how come you only fund police? He said defund the police. All I've seen you do with ARPA money is fund police. You had $56 million. $56 million. And you're gonna wait till the last 12 million to tell us our community is not good enough to get what we need in order to be safe. Our community is not good enough to get what we need to take people off the streets. Our community is not good enough for you to protect our babies. When do you stop?
That's right. Go Pat.
I'm not a real emotional person, right? I don't really see cry. But today, I feel like Allentown don't give a shit. Sorry, don't care about the people, right? I've sat here in meetings over a year. You said we had to go get credible messengers. I spent $5,000 of my own dollars, and I sold my car, my personal car, not the art paid for, not the city, no funding, myself. Because that's what you guys said, right? I get up every day to serve a city. I don't get a paycheck. I live with chronic pain and illness that you cannot understand. I've been raped and molested in this city, and I've said it time and time. And today, I feel like y'all raped us again.
Yep.
I am so hurt right now by the response and the feeling. Do I support the chief? You can ask him. I'll text him at all hours and bother him at all days, and Ryan from Parks and everything else. And you say that I don't belong in the system or I'm not a part of it, because to say that now I have to submit a bid. Nobody else did. When the Da Vinci, we was like, yeah, we gotta support that. When the housing, me, I've been here. And Paz, and we get yelled at, and sometimes y'all listen and don't. And Paz and I have been at every meeting, and not once was it said, I can submit a proposal. Who said I don't have a fancy one to build a bridge or build a skyline or whatever? You said, wait, we promise. When we came with the Da Vinci Center, wait, CC said, is there a prop? No, and you guys said no, but we're gonna work on how you guys can ask. Now you're saying that we already got community violence and we're all fighting with each other. We gotta fight over $200,000. You know what? What the hell I'm gonna do with that? Cause it's gonna be what, $50? My rent at the Arc because of the buildings that are being built are $2,000 a month. It costs a lot more to service the people. You know how much it costs to stop two gangs from fighting? It's not cheap. It costs blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm getting tired. And you know what happens when I get tired and Paz gets tired? You're not gonna be talking 10,000 for him. You're gonna talk about 50 because you're gonna need special forces and criminal investigation units that we don't have because we don't have those kind of crimes. When we say we give up and I'm burning out and I'm telling you I'm burning out and I live and bleed Allentown, but I'm getting fucking tired. That people don't make the decisions that affect our people. I live on 5th and Tillman for 25 years and I deserve to live in a safe community without people having to sleep and I have to feed them because that's not what I can afford. And I think I deserve for you guys to table the discussion and figure out something that is fair for all of us.
Yes.
I don't live on 40th, I don't live on 50th, I don't live in Freemansburg or Whitehall, I live in Allentown. And I am Allentown, and I think we deserve a seat at the table.
That's right.
Yeah,
Wow.
Did you hear that?
Joe Welsh, leader of the Justice Institute. I just want to make a suggestion here, and I certainly appreciate Councilperson Zukol's acknowledgement of the capital aspects of the police funding. In what I was suggesting, I was by no means saying don't spend $10 million for the police and fire station. You need them, clearly. The question is how you fund the $10 million. That's all we're talking about. And it's not even how you fund the $10 million, it's how you fund 20% of it. All we're saying is take 20% of that $10 million and capitalize it. And if you can do that, you can do everything that you heard today.
Yes.
That's all you have to do, is move $2 million to that capital budget. And by the way, you're spending money in an economic development fund. Well, I recall a conversation the mayor and I had about maybe 2.5 years ago in Charlie Marcon's office. The mayor pointed out to me that when Amazon was looking to locate its facility here, they put out a gigantic survey questionnaire. And much of that, correct me if I'm wrong, but much of that focused on quality of life issues. So quality of life is important to economic development.
Yes.
So maybe there's a way that we can take some of that economic development money, use that to offset the 30-year funding of that $2 million piece of the new police and fire station. And if somebody could generate that number off the top of their head, I don't know if that's asking a lot, isn't it?
I would offer a point of clarification to your remarks. We're talking about $10 million. We don't quite, I suspect that the total plan for both buildings will be well north of $10 million.
Sure, and we're only talking about 20% of that $10 million.
Right,
to begin with, which is $2 million.
Napoli pointed out over 30 years, that's $2 million additional that we're paying. There's no free lunch.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that will be paid as a yearly minuscule impact on debt service by taxpayers who are using those facilities 30 years from now.
And one of the things we've learned today is that even a dollar is too much for some people.
Well, this is true, but in comparison to the other impacts, it's what? Biggest bang for the buck. You've heard that say, and that's really what we're talking about here. What I'm really suggesting in my 11 seconds left is that maybe this is something to go back and get the numbers on. If we don't have to vote on the ARPA money until the end of the year, maybe we've got time to figure out how to do it all with the same amount of money that keep the bags in the chip or keep the diapers in the pack. Anyway, thank you very much for
Thank you.
listening.
So again, Ms. Gottschall and I would like to make a suggestion for council to consider. We have two capital projects that we are working on. Our requests are large numbers because capital projects require a large amount of funding upfront. It is one-time funding. We also understand that our partner organizations do work that keeps this city going day to day. We would like to make a joint recommendation that council consider an adjustment to each of our respective capital requests, that we would change those requests to $1.25 million. That would move $500,000 over into a shared account, bringing that, I believe, to $700,000 that could go into an account to cover the day-to-day operating expenses, which are smaller amounts of money. Program costs are less than capital costs. That would be able to support other organizations that are doing really critical work in our community.
Best idea I've heard since 9 o'clock this morning.
I was gonna say, we're all human, but we came at 9. This is what this means for us.
I wanna,
We should wait.
Can I just add one more thing? Blake Henry again. I understand it is a big decision, right? We all understand that. But here's the thing. This meeting was about this, right? This didn't come out of nowhere. Everyone is here. We came at 9 a.m. Some of us have been told about ARPA funds and things that might happen for a year and a half, okay? Thank you. So, I do think, I understand people saying maybe table it, I get it. But guess what? The next meeting, it's gonna be the same thing. So, I would suggest, take all the time you want today, but make the decision.
Thank you.
okay,
The number has to be right.
yeah, the number has to be right.
It has to be right, and it has to be fair.
Again, I would just comment that the pie is so big. And of course, everyone wants a piece. I understand that. I compliment Ripple and CALB for wanting to sacrifice some of their funds. That would let roughly 700,000 for the other organizations, which is not peanut money. And there are other grants and stuff available to help people, but you do have to apply for them. There are people that, they're right, boots on the ground, no question. They do deserve some funding. What's to say that the YMCA doesn't deserve some funding? So I think I think that's very fair. That we would give 1.2 to each of those, and the 700 would be divided among the other folks. So I'm gonna make that amendment. Well, it would have been, now with their thing, it's 2.5 for them. We have 2.2, so that's 700,000.
Wait, so you're gonna take money from the public safety then?
No. We had 3 million for each of them. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we had initially 2.2. Yeah, that number's not gonna work. No.
We give that.
1.2 each.
1.2 each.
There's only 2.4. Or there's only 2.2.
Those numbers are all 2.2. You're at 2.4. Yeah, but this one else gets it. Yeah. I take that back. I withdraw that motion.
What's that?
It would have to be 1.1, there's only 2.2 million. And what we're doing here is exactly what you're all asking for. Helping, what? It's 2 point.
Please.
What do we have left? 2.2.
Yeah, just 2.2.
2.2. If we gave 1.1 to each one of those, it's over, right?
Well, it is, but the other folks have it.
The community has been asking, every one of you came up and talked about the same thing. The community and the homelessness and people that need help. So that is what Ripple is doing, and the community center also. These are the two things that we truly want. We can't help every single organization, but if we're gonna look at the one, Ripple or the other one, and we give them the 1.1 each, that's the end of ARPA, and we have fulfilled our obligation to the folks out here that you want us to have Ripple. You want us to give people a place to live. You like the organization, you want the community center. These are things that we're willing to give you with the ARPA money, but we don't have enough to give. We need another $2, $3, $4, $5 million to help everyone out. So I think the proposal of 1.1 and 1.1 is good. In my opinion, and we're doing exactly what you're asking us to do, is to help them. Why are you saying no? We're not helping.
Well, so just to be sure, you have 2.2 million on the amendment on the table, and I believe the solicitor said you can't get three slices of that motion.
The 2.2, if the 10 million for public safety remains in the 1.3 per annum for 2024 ARPA and 2025 positions, that leaves you with the 2.2. What is now on the motion that's in front of you, that's 2.2 is a community reinvestment fund, and that's all that's left. It would go 1.1 and 1.1 gone. Okay, so that's the math that we're dealing with. You know,
I'm gonna make a motion then that be 1.2, 1.2 to Ripple and to CACLV, and then
1.1,
I'm sorry, 1.1, and 5 million to police, 5 million to fire. That'll be it for the money, and I think we've served the best part of the community. I think that these are both very deserving organizations.
So we have to go, we're back out at the original motion, so this is a motion to amend, we're going back, you know, to make an amendment. I believe there was a second, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so now, you have to do the process.
Vote on the
Now,
motion.
there's a
We have to-
motion on the table to take that 2.2 million, split it into 1.1 million. And that's on the table. Ready for that vote?
If I could just make sure the numbers, because everyone to make sure my numbers added up, so let's make sure these numbers add up. So 1.1 to Ripple, he's got his calculator, 1.1 to the Community Action Center, 10 million towards public safety, 1.3 towards 2024 positions noted above, 1.3 towards 2025 positions noted above. What does that bring us up to?
That's it. That's it.
That's it. Does that bring us to
It should bring you to 14.8.
Yeah. Yeah, it should together be 14.8.
So it's really, the simple way to look at it is you're taking what was 2.2, the initial motion had 2.2 going into a community reinvestment fund, essentially to be applied to and for determinations to be made by CED, and this takes it and allocates it, right? It goes 1.1 here, 1.1 there, no community reinvestment fund. That's what's being proposed in the amendment.
Okay, on the amendment to split the 2.2 into 1.1 for each of those groups.
What about
Mr.
public
Knapp-
comment? They don't, we don't,
Oh, yeah, talk, yeah.
public comments.
Yeah, I thought everybody spoke.
Not on this day.
Any comments go on?
Yeah, I mean.
Every time you come in, you gotta hear from us.
So public comment?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Here I come.
This is crap. You're not giving us what we wanted. And then you say you're giving us what we wanted. You had 56 million. 56 million. Cynthia, if you vote for this, you lose us, baby. You cannot do that. 56 million, and you didn't give nothing to us.
I think that that's.
Nothing, nothing.
I
We got
think-
absolutely nothing.
That's
$56 million. And you're saying you're gonna give 1.1 here, 1.1 there. You piecemeal this. $56 million for over a year. We came in every 2 weeks. We did everything you asked. We brought people from other counties. We did everything you asked, and you gave us nothing. And then you act like you're giving us something because you're giving us less than what they asked for. You didn't even give them what they asked for. You didn't give no one what they wanted. Only thing you did was possibly piecemeal the police again. But if you're talking about public safety is bigger than police. Even the chief has told you that. Even the chief has told you he needs help. It's more than just police. And you just said screw you to the community if you vote this way. Because you're gonna tell us that we have no value. And I'm gonna show you that we have no value by stop doing my work. I do it for free, out of my own pocket. Most of the things I pay for, out of my own pocket. I'm currently in debt from paying for things out of my own pocket to make sure things are safe here. And y'all still haven't met us. Y'all still try to shut me up. But y'all don't do nothing that matters. And then y'all gonna act like this is cool. It's not. It's not. It's not okay. You're not giving us what we wanted. You heard us all come up here. Not one of us said we want you to give 10 million to the police. Not one of us. Not one of us. Not one of us said that we're against the police. We said find some of that money somewhere else. But stop screwing us over and acting like you're helping us. Stop acting like you're doing us a favor. We voted you in and you continue to ignore. You ignore what we're saying. You ignore our passion. And more importantly, most times you shut us up because you don't want to hear us. You cut us off because it's okay. You bully us because you have power. But you have yet not once addressed what we're talking about. If you vote for this, half of you will come up next week. I promise. I'm gonna put out a post and I'm gonna campaign against every one of you who vote that you don't care about us.
Thank you.
I know you guys say it's like not a Q&A, right? So I'm just asking on behalf of Ortiz Art Foundation, Self, Pine Feathers, Unidos, all of the nonprofits that make up the community. Are you telling us not to show up? Are you telling us that what we do doesn't matter? Because that's what you're saying. You're saying that I'm not going to take off guns from the kids. That's what I did this morning, just this morning. This morning I went to a house where a man abuses drugs and he beat his wife. I'm not doing that next week. I'm not. I give out, I don't even know the tons right now because that food that would normally get wasted, we save. I didn't even know the impact that it had on climate because I'm a worker bee. I'm not gonna have my food bank on Monday, and I'm going to say, Daryl Hendricks made a motion to cancel the food bank, because I funded. Not because you decided the budget or take safety, I'm not asking you, I'm saying that you said, and you didn't even think I didn't factor them in on the budget, you said that. At least I can say Zupo and Cece said, well, we'll give them a crumb, or we'll give them a half of the pie. You said we don't even belong on the budget. So why should I continue? And the rest of the folk that I like and don't like, because you know, it's not a known fact, me and Promise Neighborhoods, we're not BFFs, but I feel we all deserve, because whether you do a little bit or a lot of bit, you do a bit. And it helps each one of you sleep at night. Promise you, do you know the hits that people want to do and show up at your houses, and us, we gotta go and say, listen, that's their job, let's not do it. Let's not pass out the staff that lives in the city's address that we had to block this morning. Where do they live, where do they go? We do those things. It's not things that we address to you guys on a daily basis, because we're doing our job. But you just said, I don't have to not share your address with the guys who live on the street who think you don't care about their mom, who can't afford her social security check this week, that I give her food because she didn't make ends meet, when I provide their medical insurance through Aetna and I do their paperwork through partnerships. You just said to me and my team that I had to go outside, and they said, don't go, stay there, you don't know what's gonna happen next, and if you're not part of the conversation, you're not part of the conversation. But you keep having conversations about us, for us, without us, and that's what you said. So I wanna be clear, on Monday, when his numbers go up in crime, you make sure that 10,000 was spent, next year's gonna be a lot more, because we are saying, gloves off. Let the city do what y'all wanna do. Let the kids run them up, let them disrespect, let these gangs fight, we're not passing out Narcan, we're not stopping domestic abuse, we're not giving out food banks, we're not showing up at fires, we're not showing up at parks, because these are the conversations that you just had, we don't matter. Even if you said a crumb, I would've respected that, but you just said, F y'all, I'm gonna give it to this one and that one because you want that. It's gonna take 5 years. Who's gonna take care of the youth center kids till then? 5 years. Guess what? Daryl Hendricks and his address, that's who's gonna take care of them.
Please.
So, I have a question, suggestions. I'm just gonna try to put things together in my head. So it's $10 million that we're putting towards public safety, correct? And I think you guys are not thinking about this the right way, because public safety has to do with everything that these nonprofit organizations do. So when the suggestion was made to allocate $2 million from that, it was still going towards public safety. But I think you guys weren't looking at that, right? If the suggestion was even made to say, okay, let's not do 8 million, let's do 9 million and put another 1 million from there and allocate it to the nonprofits that are engaging in public safety, why wasn't that suggestion even made? Why those two nonprofits are able to negotiate and come up and take a cut, but in public safety and the work that we do, that can't take a cut of $1 million. Where that funding is actually supposed to come from somewhere else, but we're allocating it to public safety. So I'm saying, take a look at the budget right now, right? They've made a sacrifice. Now we're asking for you to reimagine what public safety looks like and reimagine the work that we do that is actually public safety. And allocate at least the minimum of $1 million from there and put it into the community so we can continue our work in public safety, because that's what we do.
Yes. Please. Pull my amendment, if you're willing to also, and amend that motion that we continue this meeting at a later date regarding the ARPA fund. Try to.
I'm sorry, but I believe we need to fix this today. Yes. We need to do it today. None of us are going to change. She made a good point. I'm listening to that point.
All right,
if we, excuse me, Mr. President, but we've been doing this for almost 3 years now. 3 more days, 3 weeks, it's not gonna make a difference. I was steadfast on these buildings because I know it's needed. But now she made a statement for $1 million. I may consider that. And I think this is why we can't hold it up and 7 of us continue talking about the same thing. Because we're listening to the public, listening to what she has to say, it's not gonna do us any good to table it, go talk about it. We've gotta make this decision today. And I have to say that I'm willing to knock off the 1 million. I'll say 1 million. No, from the public safety and put it into, not, I don't know if the reinvestment and put it into public safety. If we could reinvest it, if we could give the money, if we're giving them 1.1, and then, Ortiz organizations or whatever, that they could come to us in the next couple of weeks and we do it, rather than giving it to the, Public Works Department.
Can I ask a
How about
question?
if we do that?
First of all, I'll second that. And can I ask the, council a question? Obviously, there's been well, there was initial application feedback in the application back in the very beginning and nobody followed it, but is there a way, since you are our council, for a application to be, created that folks could use to apply for that, what's come out to?
Well, exactly like Ripple did, they gave us everything that we're going to do.
Right, they did, but they had their own type of application.
Yeah.
The city, I don't believe, has an application, unless we still have it? We still have it?
Would it be something the same as CDBG, the same application?
Hold on.
I would suggest this, what Cynthia said, I think it should be run this.
Come up to the microphone.
I think it should be run through a process in,
Yeah.
DCEG. I have never seen council sit here and distribute funds like.
Should not be.
We don't have the expertise to do that.
I'm okay with that.
They're the experts at it, with CDBG funds, they know what's most viable out there.
I'm trying to work with Ms. Affa's, okay, so, make sure I got this math right. So if we were to reduce the public safety buildings down to 9 million, and then, hate to do this, but to make something work, if we were to, we could play around with this configuration, say we were just to hypothetically do 1 million to Ripple, 1 million to the community center, we would have that 1.3 million and 1.3 for the back positions. That would bring us to $13.6 million, which means we'd still have money left to then put into a community reinvestment fund. I think that would be like $1.2 million.
All right, so just dropping the 1.1 to 1 for both of them. 1
Both
million
of
to
them.
Ripple, 1 to the county, and then, to the community center.
And then the rest goes.
And then the rest, 1.3 goes to
Not, not 1 million off of public safety.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I'm
And,
good.
So, can I make that, sorry.
No, I'm just
Can I
trying to
make
get
that
clarity.
amendment?
Well, we're gonna have to reassess and figure out where we are right now, okay? But are you suggesting that the 1.2 then go into the community reinvestment fund?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
9 million for public safety buildings, 1 million for Ripple, 1 million for the community center, 1.3 for back positions, 1.3 for back positions, 1.2 for the community reinvestment fund.
Okay. That can be done, but we have to procedurally get there, okay? And I think,
Could they just pull their seconds and start fresh?
I think that we should probably pull, let's go back to the original motion and then do a motion to amend.
And change the numbers there.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Change the numbers.
the last motion I have in front of me was the 1.1 and the 1.1. That was a motion to amend. So, who made that one?
I did.
Okay, so pull those, and now we're back to the 10 million public safety, 1.3 2024, 1.3
No, 9 million. 9 million.
No, I know, I'm telling you where we are though.
Oh, the original.
We're not there yet, we gotta amend it. So I'm saying, okay, if you pull your motion where we are as we said, is 10 million public safety, 1.3 2024, 1.3 2025 positions, and 2.2 for community reinvestment funds. Now, someone would need to make a motion to amend that, to be 9 million, for public safety buildings, 1.3 2024 ARPA positions, 1.3 2025 ARPA positions, 1 million Ripple, 1 million community center, and 1.2 to remain in the community reinvestment fund to be administrated by DCED.
Yes,
I'll
that's
make that
correct.
motion.
I second that motion.
Okay?
That's correct.
All right. Now you need to do the,
Public comment.
you have to let people talk on it, if they have comments.
Public comments, this is the time.
I just want to be clear, because it's hard to hear
No,
in
I
the back.
understand.
9 million to public safety, 1 million to Ripple, 1 million to CACOV, 1.2 million to community, 1.3 for 2024, 1.3 for 2025 to the ARPA positions, correct? Now, the only other whisper in the back of the room is that the, CDBG process, right? Like you said, it's never been done that we come to council and do a pitch, but it has. Da Vinci came, the baseball field came, they came, and there was no application. The CDBG is very strict guidelines, and I know that, and Vicky works really hard, and I will say that she doesn't need to add that. That's one. Two, that is not an easy process, so if we go by those guidelines, that's not the same guidelines as ARPA, and that Da Vinci got their funding and everyone else's. So that would be a little unfair to us to, we'll take the 1.2, because like I said, something is better than nothing. But if we're going to say fair, we should not be doing calculus when everybody else was putting in shapes and circles. That's a little unfair, because we do have presentations and all that, and you guys are the experts. Someone said you're not the experts. You guys live in Allentown, you're elected officials, and you hear us regularly. You know who shows up and who doesn't. Whether you feel you should make the decision or not, that's might be okay if you want to or not, but the process should not be as difficult as the CDBG funding, because that is not easy. And if you're gonna go with that, there are people, that means that the ones who already get it, they're gonna have a higher stake because they already know the process. When those that are out here who've never got it, like ARC and Fine Feathers and many others, it's going to make the process. So you just went like this is the scale when you balance it. So just something to consider. We're fine, but think about the process because it should be fair for
We'll
people.
speak with Vicky and her up and see what we can do to make it most equitable
Right.
for the application process.
Thank you.
And what's most important here is we will have those monies to give out to other agencies.
That's very important, whether it's a crumb or
From the
something,
shelter.
we spend equity, and I know that you guys have to hear some of that. Thank you.
Ms. Gerlach?
I would like to, if I can make a friendly amendment to, take out the specific language of using, if CDBG is part of that motion language, take out that specific language. To just say that, that we will work with the CED department to determine an equitable and inclusive process.
Fair application
Fair
process.
application.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to
Standard, yeah.
mirror the CDBG
Yeah,
application.
yeah, and to Mr.
But it can
Napoli's-
borrow pieces of it, that works, but
Yeah, definitely, standard, yes, so, because the point has been made, it has not been standard.
I trust Ms. Kissel will know best how to do this and help us with her expertise.
Okay, so has that motion been made?
I make the motion to do so.
And then I second it.
As-
Okay, very good. And now we're public comment. We got that.
Okay, now on the vote, let's vote on that. Everybody's clear where we're at. Okay. Ms. Santos? Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Zappa?
Yes.
Gerlach?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Now I assume we're back to the motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, on the additional motion as.
On the motion as amended.
Yeah, okay.
The motion is amended.
Yep. Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Zappa?
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
That's a yes.
Okay, I believe that's all we have of business today. Mr. Hamilton?
So, I guess, because it's funny, you can make a request to suspend the rules and vote on
Let me get the mic. You just give me a bear with me.
They're gonna come.